and welcome to this Info Day. It is a day dedicated to the challenges after yesterday's presentation of the Work Programme 2025 Info Day, with a dedicated session on the accelerator. Today, instead, we're going through the Accelerator Challenges. But what is a EIC Accelerator Challenge call? It is a call for proposal in predefined topics that have been identified in areas where breakthrough technologies or game-changing innovations developed by startups or SMEs can have a major impact on EU objectives. I am Maria del Sorbo. I am program advisor at the EISMEA, which is the European Innovation Council, a small and medium enterprises executive agency, and I'm working with the Program Manager's Office, and I will be your moderator today. So today we'll have the chance to hear from our representatives of the European Commission, from the European Innovation Council and SMEs Executive Agency, and from some Directorates-General. Like, for instance, we are going to have the representative from the DG RTD, Research Innovation, DG CNECT for Communications, Networks, Content and Technology, DG DEFIS, Defense Industry and Space, and DG MOVE, Mobility and Transport. They will present the new challenges of Accelerator 2025 under this financing scheme. And also it's going to be your moment for you potential applicants to ask your open questions and to gather your answers, mainly from our speakers, but also from our colleagues. So let's just see how this day is going to be organized. We're going to have 5 sessions, one per each EIC Accelerator Challenge. Each session will be organized in this way: Director-General presentation from DG with insight on EU strategy to which the challenge is connected, and then it will be followed by the EIC Program Manager presentation. Each presenter has 10 minutes. Afterwards, there will be questions and answer time for 25 minutes. You will see that each session will start with a QR code, or where you can, for you applicants to make your questions already, where you can type exactly your questions. So just quickly, few housekeeping rules for today. These info days will be web streamed and recorded. The recording and presentations will be published on the EIC website in the days following the event. Questions, as I said before, are going to be asked via Slido. If you don't want your name to appear in the recording, please submit your questions as anonymous. Also, you potential applicants will have the chance to ask your open questions, texting them through Slido. You can use the QR code or just you log in Slido and you can add hashtag challenges and you can type your question. Existing facts frequently asked questions on EIC Challenges Work Programme 2025 will be updated with all the new questions, including all those that will not be addressed today, in case they were not asked earlier. I think now I will just introduce briefly the name of the challenges, and I will give the floor to Anne-Marie. So the challenges we are going to have today are acceleration of advanced materials development and upscaling along the value chain, biotechnology-driven low-emission food and feed production systems, generative AI for EU, creating European champions in generative AI, innovative in space servicing, operations, robotics and technologies for resilient EU space infrastructure, breakthrough innovation for future mobility. And of course, you are going to have speakers from DGs and from the EIC. Now I will leave the floor to Anne-Marie for the opening of this info day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this EIC Accelerator Challenges Info Day. My name is Anne-Marie Sassen. I'm the head of unit of the Program Manager's Office in the European Innovation Council and SME Executive Agency. So I will just give you a broad overview of why we do challenges in the accelerator. Can you please go to the next slide? I want to explain you the purpose of the challenges. Then we will go over each challenge in detail. We will first hear somebody from the European Commission, from the relevant policy Directorate-General, who will explain the overall political context. And then there will be an explanation by the EIC Program Manager who will be managing this challenge. And then today, of course, it's your opportunity to ask questions. So anything that is unclear, you can ask in the Slido. And hereby I want to say that we focus really on the content of the challenges. So yesterday there was a general info day. There was a 1.5 hour session on the accelerator instrument also, where many of the details are explained. And if you want to submit, I truly highly recommend you to watch the recording of that session to understand all the ins and outs of making a proposal. Because today we will not repeat all those things again. So if we go to the next slide. Yes, this is the next slide is again to remind you that you can submit your questions through Slido. So here is the information again. And then I will start with my presentation and explain you why we have challenges. So as you know, in the EIC, about half of our funding is bottom up. That means it's totally open. People can submit proposals on any topic as long as it is deep tech. That means it's related to science and technology. You need a long time before you could bring, before there is even a market with potential buyers of your product. So you need a long time of investment before you can commercialize the product. There's a high risk and there's also a high gain. So it's potentially a very good breakthrough, but it's still very risky. And that's why, for instance, private investors would be very reluctant to invest in it at this time. That's the gap that the European Innovation Council wants to to fill with our investments. So if you have products which have those characteristics, then in any topic they could be submitted to the open part of the EIC. But we also have challenges, and the challenges are dedicated top-down designed parts where we know as European Commission that we really need more innovative companies in those areas. So these are the challenges are always in line with European policies. And what we want, if you're part of a challenge, the advantage is also that we create a critical mass of companies in this area. And you will not be alone. There will be other companies doing similar things. You will have the opportunity to get to know those companies. And with the critical mass, the expected impact is much higher. What we also want to do to help these companies, and that can only be done if you have a critical mass of companies, is to provide proactive support to these companies. For instance, quite often there are regulatory barriers why these companies cannot go to the market so easily. So if we have a group of companies, we can put the companies into contact with relevant regulatory bodies. There can be conversations which will create better understanding for the companies to know how to position their products, but also for the regulatory bodies to understand what are the companies developing, how should we develop our regulations for the future. Of course, we also provide, there can also be proactive support on the technical domain if there are issues that company cannot solve. Maybe, our program managers, who I will explain later, can help companies to find the right experts to support them. We are organizing business advisory services to connect to ecosystems. For instance, we have corporate days where corporates express the needs that they have in a certain domain. And then our SMEs, our accelerator companies can apply to be part of this corporate day. And if they are selected, they can pitch for the corporates. And quite often at the end of such a day, there are some matches found between some of our companies and some of the corporates. And the same we do with investors, other early clients, so that the companies really get opportunities also on the demand side and that they can find their customers. We also do a lot of dissemination on trade fairs and other relevant events. And of course, with the challenges, you know, if we have 10 companies working on a certain area, we can really make a very impactful presence on such dedicated trade fairs. So if we go to the next slide. Here is just an example of the type of proactive support we are giving to the EIC space companies. For space, so we have an important portfolio of space companies. And of course, one of the major barriers for these companies is that they need to demonstrate that their product works in space. So you need to really be in orbit to demonstrate the value of your product. So the EIC, together with DG DEFIS, we are helping the companies to get such fast-track access to in-orbit demonstration and validation. We also organize, for instance, on Space Tech Bremen, panels, stands, and exhibition with our company. We try to stimulate international collaboration, and for that we had a webinar with the Japanese space agency JAXA to see how we could collaborate. And for instance, the EIC beneficiaries were also present at the largest space-related conference, the International Astronautical Congress in 2024, where they could demonstrate their projects and their hardware. And so because we have a portfolio of projects, we are able to provide such opportunities to the companies. Can we go to the next slide? So if your topic fits a challenge, then I would really recommend you to also submit to the challenge and not to the open, because of course you can still submit to the open, but the success rates in the challenges are higher than what they are in the open. And so if your topic fits a challenge, please also submit to the challenge. So you can see here on this slide, these are the success rates of the 2023 challenges. You can see that the success rate for open that year was 5.7%. But for instance, in space technologies and services, that challenge, the success rate even went up to 14%. So of course, it varies a bit per topic, but in general, it's really worthwhile to submit to the challenge, but of course, only if your topic fits the challenge. Okay, maybe we can go to the next slide now. So I already briefly talked about the program managers, that the program managers are there to support the projects and to help them overcome the many barriers that are there. So for instance, conversations with regulatory bodies, participation to certain dedicated events, it's quite often organized also or co-organized also by the program managers. The program managers are with the EIC for 4 years. They are experts in their domain, both in research, but also in bringing research to the market. And because of their long experience, they also have a vision on what are the areas that the EIC should invest in. You can see here the 10 program managers that we have. You see their pictures, you also see their names and their domains. So they're all specialized in a certain domain. And today we will also hear then 4 program managers explaining their challenges that they have. And they would also be the ones that you would be in contact with once your project is selected. You can go to the next slide. So program managers, they are doing 2 things mainly. The first one is to identify the candidate challenges that we have in our work program. And then they are also involved in the selection of the portfolios of projects. For Accelerator, they are an active observer in the panel. So they don't provide their advice, but they provide additional information that the independent experts, the jury members, need to know to take a go, no-go decision. So that's one side of their job. And the second side is to do this proactive management, which I have already explained a bit to you with the examples of the space portfolio. And this will really give also the EIC a sectorial program management approach. We can go to the next slide, please. So the program managers, they design the challenges. I already said that about half of the funding of the EIC is bottom up and is open. But on this slide, you can see the whole work program of 2025 in one oversight. So we see here the funding streams that we have. So for instance, for Accelerator, our total investments this year will be 634 million euro, of which 348 million euro are dedicated for open projects and 250 million euro are dedicated to the challenges. And then we can see 50 million for each of the 5 challenges that we have. If we go to the purple part, the Pathfinder, also there we have challenges. They are also designed by the program managers. And there you can see the topics of the Pathfinder challenges. Today we will focus on the Accelerator challenges, and all other parts of the work program. They were explained yesterday in the general info day. Can we please go to the next slide? So what are we looking for in the Accelerator challenges? So we're looking for startups and SMEs that want to scale up high impact innovations. And these high impact innovations should really have the potential to create new markets or disrupt existing ones. It should be innovation building on scientific discovery or technological breakthroughs. This is what we call the deep tech. To be eligible for Accelerator, your product or service already needs to be at technology readiness level 6. We also need innovations where we need a significant amount of funding over a long time frame, and which are too risky for private investors alone. And so kind of patient capital. That is what we are providing. So you should really have a need for that in order to finally be a successful candidate in our program. Can you please go to the next one? So what can you apply for? This slide provides an overview of that. So you can have, so the main vehicle is blended finance, which exists. Part of it is grant and another part is equity funding. But you can also apply for only a grant or only equity. And in the next slide, I will explain in more detail what this means. So if we can go to the next one. So for the blended finance, so then you have both a grant component and an investment component. Then for the grant component, you can apply for a maximum of 2.5 million euro. All your eligible costs will be reimbursed up to 70%. And this is only for SMEs. For small mid-caps, they are not eligible for a grant only. On the investment component, this can be, you can request between 500,000 and maximum 10 million euro. And this is usually in the form of direct equity, or it could also be quasi-equity. EIC will obtain a minority ownership, and that means that we will get maximum 25% of the voting shares of the company. And we have this patient capital principle, so that we have a perspective of 7 to 10 years, maximum 15 years. Can we please go to the next one? So, but there are also other options. If you don't need the two, you can ask for grant only. But this you can only do if you can prove that you have sufficient financial means for deployment and scale up already secured. Grant and investment together, so both the components. That is if you need both support for development, so to go from TRL 6 to 8, and you also need support for deployment and scale up. And you can also do investment only, and that is new. That's something new in this work program. And that you do if you are looking to fill the funding gap for rapid scale up of your high risk innovation. And you don't need a grant because you don't need to do development. The next slide, please. So if you would like to apply, how do you apply? So we have a 4-step process, and it starts with your idea. And if you have an idea which you think fits very well the EIC, you are invited to submit a short proposal. And the short proposals you can submit at any time. This will be evaluated, and after 4 to 6 weeks, you will get the answer of your on your short proposal. And if you get a go, you are invited to write a full proposal. That's the second step. To write a full proposal, you can also get coaching to make sure that you really have a good business proposition in your proposal. So the full proposals are then evaluated by independent experts again, and remote evaluators. They will they will judge your proposal. Your proposal will be read by three remote evaluators. And if they say that you are good enough to go to the jury, you will be in the 4th step invited to a jury where you can pitch your innovation in front of these EIC jury members. Then, when they give you a go, then you will be invited to sign a contract with the EIC. So it is a 4-step process. You can submit short proposals at any time. And for the full proposals, we have 2 cutoffs. One, now I don't remember the dates anymore. One in the
Sorry, Marie, to interrupt you. Do you mind just to conclude, because we are very close to the time to be the end of your. Thank you.
So there are 2 cutoffs for the full proposals. Can we go to the next slide? So for the full proposals, I just very briefly want to mention the evaluation criteria, because they again, of course, give the message of the type of projects that we're looking for. So for excellence, we will be looking at the novelty and breakthrough character of the innovation, the timing, is this the right timing of the proposal, the technological feasibility, and your IPR strategy. Please, the next one. For impact, we will be looking at what is the demand of the customer, how is the market developing, what is your commercialization strategy, what is the potential for scaling up, and what is the broader impact of your innovation. And then the last one, next slide please, is related to risk. We're looking for high risk innovations, but we want to make sure that there is a good team behind it, that the risk level of the investment is understood very well, that there's a good mitigation plan of the risk, and that there's a good implementation plan of the project that is proposed. So with this, I wanted to end my presentation. The next slide is just links where you can find more information, but please also look at the general info day recording, which is now available already online. And then the next slide is again the link to the Slido. In case you have any questions, please submit them in the Slido. We will not answer them now. We will now go to the first Accelerator Challenge explanation and have questions after that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marie, for this very interesting presentation introduction about the Accelerator Challenges. Now we're going to the first challenge, acceleration of advanced materials development and upscaling along the value chain. We're going to have speakers, Sofia Fantecchi, who is Policy Officer at the DG Research and Innovation in Advanced Materials and Industrial Transformation. And it will follow the presentation of Paolo Bondavalli, who is EIC Program Managers in Advanced Materials and for Energy. So now I leave the floor to Sofia. Thank you.
Good morning, Maria. Do you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Anne-Marie. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, colleagues. So to introduce this challenge, I will explain what is Europe's advanced materials strategy. So in other words, what is the policy framework for advanced materials research and innovation? So what is the context in which the challenge on acceleration of advanced materials development and upscaling along the value chain has been formulated, and which will be explained in detail by the program manager Paolo Bondavalli. So I will present you this strategy. So what is called the Advanced Materials for Industrial Leadership communication that we published in February this year. Next slide, please. When talking about advanced materials, we use the OECD working description. So this is probably well known. Very briefly, advanced materials are materials that are intentionally designed and engineered to have what? Something better, new or enhanced properties, and or targeted or enhanced structural features. The aim is to have a specific, better, improved functional performance. And we sometimes talk about high-tech materials and low-tech materials because we include in this working definition new emerging materials from innovative manufacturing processes, but also materials that are simply better but are manufactured from traditional materials. Slide 3, please. Here, I would like to spend some time to explain you the policy context. So why do we need a strategy for Europe on advanced materials? Well, actually, advanced materials are the basis for many innovative technologies, and they are really recognized game changers for our industry in Europe. In what we call the green and digital transitions of European industry. They offer great opportunities. They are a cross-cutting advanced technology, and they hold the potential to revolutionize several sectors. If we think about renewable energy, electric mobility, energy efficient buildings, but also health. And there is as such an increase in demand. So we believe that investing in these materials, we're investing in the technologies that will really power our future without compromising the health of our planet and citizens. And we include, and this is because we include the concept of safe and sustainable by design, which is really integral to the approach, which means ensuring that the materials we produce are not only high performing, but also non-toxic, recyclable, and energy efficient throughout their life cycle. So in this value chain approach. It's good to remember that our President von der Leyen set out in July new political priorities for the next term, ranging from 2024 to 2029. And these guidelines emphasize the central role of research and innovation in Europe's competitiveness. The guidelines propose increasing research spending, focus on groundbreaking fundamental research, on some strategic priorities, but also on disruptive innovation, which is what advanced materials can bring. And the new political guidelines also call, among other initiatives, for a European prosperity plan. This plan includes simplifying business operations, deepening the single market, and adopting a new approach to support companies scaling up. while ensuring a level playing field. This prosperity plan should also include a clean industrial deal and a new circular economy act, emphasizing the objectives of a clean economic growth. You have probably heard about two recent political reports written by Letta and Draghi, and they have both highlighted the importance of research and innovation in maintaining Europe's competitive edge. In particular, the Draghi political report, that is called A Competitiveness Strategy for Europe, makes wide-ranging recommendations to boost European competitiveness in favor of industries. And in his report, Draghi invites for a program to tackle the innovation gap. And his report acknowledges advanced materials playing an important role here, where we need increased funding. So the overall message is clear for the next 5 years. We need and we want to strengthen European industry. And in Directorate-General Research and Innovation, where I work, we are now working on turning these strategies into actions. So we have worked on a strategy for Europe on advanced materials. Slide 4, please. To understand what has happened, actually, we should start to pay tribute to 7 European stakeholders who presented to the Commission document, sort of position paper, in February 2022, called the Materials 2030 Manifesto. Here, very simply, stakeholders called for a change in our thinking on materials research and innovation to speed up the innovation process by looking at what we need for our economy, for our industries, therefore also for our SMEs. That was the starting point. And the Commission reacted to this manifesto, to this document, drafting a Commission communication on advanced materials for industrial leadership. And here you can find the link where this document can be downloaded. Next slide, please. The strategy presents a very high ambition in the political context that I described very briefly. So advanced materials are not only just building blocks of the next generation of products, but they are really the foundations upon which we will build a more prosperous, sustainable, and equitable Europe in a new industrial area that is defined, I would say, by four keywords: sustainability, safety, efficiency, and resilience. And here, 3 other important keywords. Europe must accelerate its advanced materials research and technology development, scale up its innovation and manufacturing capacity, and step up the industrial uptake of advanced materials. So this is the strategy. How are we presenting all this? Slide 6, please. Next slide. So to explain you the strategy in a nutshell, I would say, the strategy sets out a number of actions, actually there are 14, and calls for a unified and industry-oriented approach to be implemented together with the member states. This is fundamental. And we call for a change that is fully in line with the priorities of the new Commission. The new Commission will be working on in the next months. And this is done by, I would say, grouping the actions along 5 pillars and building the strategy on these. Let me briefly go through these. The first pillar presents European research and innovation policies as a launchpad for the industry transition in Europe. The Commission, very simply, seeking an alignment with the member states on R&I needs for advanced materials in Europe and what this means for European and national research programs. And once such priorities are established, should become an investment agenda by and for the European Union and the member states. The second pillar of the strategy wants to introduce a fast track from lab to fab. Today, it is well known that it can take up to 10 years, maybe more, for the development of a new material. We need to accelerate the innovation process to be more effective in the subsequent manufacturing and use. And this acceleration can only happen via an increased and improved digitally driven collaboration and exchange of data and information containing the data along the value chain. So from the very discovery of new advanced materials to their development, upscaling, and use. And in particular, here we would like to launch a new wide digital infrastructure for advanced materials. We call it the Materials Commons for Europe, which will provide access to all interested users in a sort of platform where simulations and digital tools are integrated with artificial intelligence, machine learning, all this at the service also of industry and those SMEs that are interested to accelerate advanced materials research and innovation. And the third pillar under this strategy, on the other hand, is Pillar 3 is about attracting more investments and facilitate access to finance. And this is where this challenge call fits. Next slide, please. Let me highlight first the first action, action 6. Here I've listed the actions under this pillar, this which might be of interest to people here in the audience. We announced the plan for a new industry partnership called Innovative Advanced Materials for Europe, IAM4EU. And we will offer a public budget of around 250 million euros for the remaining 3 years of Horizon Europe, our framework program, under Cluster 4, which is where our program is, for the period 2025-2027. And in return, we expect private investments of equivalent size in this partnership. And the partnership will play an important role in bridging academia and industry. And outside this partnership, about 50 million euros are dedicated under the European Innovation Council Accelerator Programme for 2025, enabling SMEs active in the advanced materials sector to scale up by getting support by the EIC. And this should incentivize venture capital funds to be more active. This is action 8 in our communication. So I will not go now into the details of the other actions of Pillar 3, because this is the one is of interest today. And maybe let me briefly point out, if you could put the previous slide, please, with the pillars. Let me briefly point out that there is also a fourth and a fifth pillar in our strategy. The fourth pillar focuses on measures fostering the production and use of advanced materials. So it addresses better use of public procurement, needs for standards and patents, as well as skills. And then our strategy also presents the need for a well-designed governance, which is the fifth pillar of the communication. It's clear that to discuss and facilitate coordination of all the actions we present in our strategy, we need some bodies, what we call a Technology Council for Advanced Materials, which will be a group formed of high-level representatives from member states, together with key stakeholders from industry and academia. And the main objective of this body, of this Technology Council, will be to provide a strategic discussion forum for a robust, really European advanced materials ecosystem to be set up and to work effectively. Next slide, please. This is also relevant for the call that Paolo will describe. In this, in our strategy, we have an annex to the communication where we provide a list of research and innovation priorities which have been identified through consultation with member states as particularly relevant for joint action in the area of advanced materials. And these are energy, mobility, construction, and electronics. This list of priority areas will be updated regularly to take into account socioeconomic, scientific, or technological development, or following the further identification of common needs for joint action, especially with discussions thanks to the Technology Council, we are at present consulting member states and stakeholders to address industry needs in the health sector, for instance. Next slide, please. The annex also describes priorities in some important cross-cutting areas. Very important, foster digitalization of advanced material research and innovation. So this goes towards the concept of materials acceleration platforms, self-driving labs in particular. This is really key for the acceleration of advanced materials uptake. There is work to do also on the implementation of the safe and sustainable by design framework to have a true paradigm shift. Implementation of circularity, use of secondary materials is also a challenge, in particular for complex material structures, and needs to be considered. And in this annex on cross-cutting priorities, we also include advanced materials characterization, techniques and tools, so instrumentation, metrology, and manufacturing. I would like to finish by giving a summary maybe of the important messages about our strategy. So seeing that the challenges we face are significant in advanced materials, we see also that opportunities offered are huge. And our strategy calls really for better coordination of public research and innovation spending across the EU member states, alignment with industrial needs, and investments to give research and innovation a Europe-wide approach to leverage the strengths in Europe. And only this, we believe, will allow Europe to be a global leader and to master the new markets that are emerging. In this context, advanced materials are really essential to ensure that Europe remains at the forefront of technological innovation. And this is why we needed a strategy. By embracing the new political guidelines of the Commission that I briefly highlighted, by engaging in implementing the actions set out in the Commission, in investing in the developing of advanced materials, by helping SMEs that are active in this field, and by adhering to the principles of safe and sustainable by design, we can indeed ensure that Europe will lead the global race towards a clean and digital economy. So we are really at the kickoff of a new journey. We need all stakeholders on board to join forces and connect. And projects selected under this call will support the communication and strengthen the European advanced materials ecosystem. So, Paolo, over to you to know more about this challenge. Thank you.
Okay, it works. Thank you, Sophie, for your presentation. Was extremely informative concerning the call and concerning the strategy and the philosophy behind the call. So actually, I'm Paolo Bondavalli. I'm Program Manager on Advanced Material for Energy. So I will present in detail some the challenge on acceleration of advanced material development and upscaling along the value chain. Next, please. So actually, the first things to do is to give a sort of definition of advanced material. So we can define advanced material as materials that are engineered with a view to enhancing functional performances above and beyond that of existing materials. So this is a quite broad definition, but it can help us to give a framework to this challenge. Now, we know that the advanced materials are key enablers for the development of game-changing product and innovative solutions in many industrial sectors, in a large panel, I could say, of industrial sectors such energy, mobility, electronics, and construction. Next, please. Actually, the main things that we have to do is to considering that there is an urgent need to boost all the stages of the development of advanced material, we have to move on different stages actually. So we have moved on the design of the advanced material, but also to scaling up the production of advanced material, and also to help the manufacturing to move from the lab to fab. Only in this way we will be able to, I could say, disclose the potential of this new material that can be created in order also to satisfy and to answer specific urgent needs, actually. Next, please. But actually, what we would like to stress is that this kind of challenge require investment to identify and bring breakthrough innovation to the market. But this breakthrough will be obtained only if we cover all the full chain of the I could say of the actor in the field. So we are talking about developer and producer of advanced material, but we are also talking about the company developing tool, but tool in the frame, in the field of designing, but also in the field of modeling, and also in the field of characterization. And we can say that this can be also obtained, that can be achieved also thanks to, next slide please, to the help of the AI, which is, I could say, no, previous one, sorry. The AI, also with the help of AI, that is, I could say, a transversal topic that is in nearly all the challenges, I could say, that can help us to, I could say, accelerate in a dramatic way the different steps, for example, the design, modeling, characterization, to move very quickly and faster to the innovation and to the product. Next slide, please. But the scope of this challenge aims at scaling SME belonging to the whole value chain of advanced material in several sectors. So I would like to stress the point that we are talking about the whole value chain. And you can see this impact, this scope is for a large panel of sectors. So we are talking about energy, we are talking about construction, but also electronics and mobility. Next slide, please. This is extremely important, considering that, as already said by my colleague Sophie, advanced material is a strategic topic. So this challenge contributes to a common European approach in accelerating the scaling up of advanced materials. So we have moved faster in this direction. A critical technology identified under strategic technology for Europe platform, and thereby address the risk to the EU future strategic autonomy in this area. For this reason, this challenge is, I could say, strategic in order to move faster in the field, and also to move faster than our competitor. Next one, please. The specific objective are mainly two, so the technology. We have technology for design, synthesis, characterization, upscaling, and production of advanced material. This is what this challenge is targeting. So the development of these new technologies. But surely we have to stress that the scaling up of process is fundamental. So we have to reach the targeted functionalities of improved performance of advanced material. I'm talking about such surface functionalization, nanoparticle, additive manufacturing, or also approaches that may enable a fast integration of advanced material into smart devices. All these different aspects. So you can see with this challenge, we want to touch different aspects of the development and the scaling up of this material. They are extremely important to move in the direction to reach the objective of this challenge. Next slide, please. The advanced materials and associated process in the above mentioned 4 key application areas must be developed, minimizing the use of resources, in particular critical raw material. Indeed, if we are talking about advanced material, to obtain advanced material, we need raw material. So we cannot, I could say, talk advanced material without having some consideration about which are the critical raw material, and also considering that critical raw material are strictly related to the notion of strategic autonomy of Europe. So to develop this challenge, we have to take in account these aspects, which is extremely important. Next slide, please. And finally, which are the expected outcome and impacts? Firstly, strengthen the European value chains of advanced material in the energy, mobility, electronics, and construction application area, as already presented. Enable a more diversified, digitally driven, and risk-aware configuration of the European advanced material value chains, associated processes and technologies. So we are talking about all the value chains. And to accelerate the market uptake of advanced material in the sector that I mentioned, considering that we want to move faster in this direction, and to address the EU industrial dependency on imports of resources such as CRM for the energy, mobility, electronics, and construction sector, which is extremely important for the strategy, the European strategy in this field. Next slide. So the company selected for support under this challenge will become part of the wider advanced material ecosystem to be fostered by different actions set out in the advanced material for industrial leadership, as shown by my colleague presently. And so this is extremely important considering the strategic importance of this topic that has been recognized by the European Commission. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sophia, for this overview of the advanced strategy, material strategy of Europe, and Paolo for the explanation of the challenge goal. We're going to, to have our questions now. So the first questions: users can have unique expectations from a material impacting the performance definition. Are there evaluators' guidelines about what functional performance is? Who would like to take the question? Paolo, you, I guess.
Actually, it's quite a general question, so it's difficult to answer to what the meaning exactly of functional performance. So actually, indeed, we are talking advanced. So in this case, I think that they are talking about advanced material, so we have to take into account the definition. So we are talking about material that will be able to improve the performances of the material that has not been engineered. So we have to start with that. So and so higher environment sustainability considered the functional performance enhancement. So, but I think that the answer is that we have to take it into account, which is the definition of advanced material, to move in this direction. So after that, if we are talking about advanced material, it's sure that we will develop new functionalities. So I don't hear you, Maria.
Go ahead, Paolo.
Okay, so I read the question. User can have a unique
expectation. This is the same question as before. So this is.
So I think I have answered. In my case, functional properties as associated to the advanced material, I could say improve performances. So so the next question.
Thank you, Paolo. Is a high environmental sustainability considered a functional performance enhancement?
It's a very good question. So I think we have to take into account also that. I don't know what you think, my colleague Sophia, but I think it's strategic to take into account the functional, I could say, the higher environmental sustainability, which is a very important question. So actually, this is associated to a specific application. So I don't know what you think, Sophia.
I think that environmental sustainability is an underlying approach that that is included in the SSBD approach, and that has to be considered since the start. So when we design and invent a material, but the functional performance is more the properties that materials have to meet a given function, whether it's ferroelectricity, piezoelectricity, magnetism, energy storage capacity. So this is the functional performance, and if you look at the annex of our communication annex, the annex where these 4 sectors that you have mentioned also in the call text, we look at the functionalities in this annex. So a material that that serves a certain purpose that has a given function. So I would say that environmental sustainability is not really a functional you have to see which is the functionality of the material you're developing, and then at the same time it must be in the best way, the possible way, sustainable from the environmental point of view. So I don't know if it's an enhancement of the performance, it's rather a quality, a principle to which we should adhere, if I may say.
Thank you, Sophia. I will go to the next question. Could you please provide some concrete examples of advanced materials development and upscaling that would fit in this goal? Does this include nanotechnology?
So I can answer. Actually, I work on nanotechnology for a long time, so I think the nanotechnology is surely included in this goal, considering that this is a very important field in advanced material, I think. So in this case, we are talking, which could be another, I could say, a concrete example. In my case, for example, I work for a lot of time on 2D materials. So one example could be the upscaling or production of 2D materials that have been, for example, modified to improve specific, I could say, functionalities. So I was thinking about, for example, the graphene that is used to the desalinization of this kind of stuff, this kind of application, and so on. So nanotechnology is completely, in my view, in the framework of this challenge, actually, and nanotechnology, nanomaterial in a more larger way.
If I may add,
yes, please.
If I may add just one, exactly. Paolo has explained this extremely well. Advanced materials include nanomaterials, include 2D materials, and actually nanomaterials are almost always advanced materials because they are engineered to obtain better properties, better performance, and so by definition they are advanced materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Paolo. Next question. What about technologies reducing the use of precious metals such as platinum catalysts in electrolyzers? Do they fit this challenge?
But in this case, this is quite the logic of the previous question. So this is about sustainability and so on. So I think this is, as is said by Sophia, I think this is an underlying topic, is a transverse question that we have in all the development of advanced material. So in this case, we are talking about CRM and critical raw material and so on. So it completely fit the code, but we have also to take into account which are the functionalities that we are developing in the framework of this challenge, actually.
I would like to add something to this, if you don't mind, Paolo. So
yeah.
It only fits the challenge if you develop alternative advanced materials. Of course, this challenge is about advanced materials. So it's not only about reducing the use of critical raw materials. So the question, it was not fully clear if the project would also do that. But if it's only about reducing CRMs, it does not fit the challenge. It's really about developing new advanced materials in some way.
Thank you for this integration, Marie. I would just give the last questions and then I would pass to the next session to be on schedule. So does the technology for print electronic circuits fit the challenge, considering it is part of the value chain to develop smart and advanced materials?
In my opinion, if you we read the talk, we are talking about all the value chain, but in this case, the question that we have to ask ourselves is: we are developing new advanced material in the framework of this challenge. So if we are printing electronic circuits, developing new, I don't know, new material to do that, it's okay. If we are talking only to develop printing electronic circuits, I'm not sure that it's completely related to advanced material challenge, actually.
Thank you, Paolo, for your answers. I would like just to remind you, potential applicants, that all the questions that be partially answered or not answered will find, their answers in our frequently asked questions on our EIC websites, and as same for the ones that have been answered. So don't worry, you're going
Maria?
to gather your yes, please.
I think you can still answer these 3 questions, huh?
Would you go? Because
I would answer these 3 questions. Yes.
Then I go on. So should projects focus mainly on specific materials or also on development and production processes with multiple outputs?
Also. Okay, on specific material, I think that this approach could be current with the call, actually. Considering that we are targeting different sectors, as I told you previously, like energy, electronics, and so on. So we can develop specific materials, specific advanced material, and also production processes of this advanced material to touch different, to have a different, I could say, multiple output, actually.
Thank you, Paolo. I will go to the next. Where may advanced materials for life sciences applications fit in the priority areas?
Actually, it's a good question. Yeah, I leave the floor to Sophia. I'm muted.
Sophia, you're muted. Please. Yeah, I'm
sorry.
Thank you.
As said, we have started from these 4 application areas in our strategy, but of course we are considering also to extend this. For the moment, this call considers applications in these 4 areas. So this has been very well explained by the program manager, Paolo, and therefore it's I think the answer to this question is clear. There are 4 priority areas. In the future, we might consider other priority areas, and it can also be that some new advanced materials are developed with some functionalities that can be used in one sector and in another sector. But the call, I think, is quite clear. It considers 4 application areas. This is the call.
Thank you, Sophia. The last one, how do flexible electronics and materials fit in this challenge? Paolo.
Actually, if we are developing advanced material for flexible electronics, respecting what is asked in the call, for me, fit completely. The fit is okay. So if we are working about upscaling, designing, or one of these aspects of development of advanced material, in my opinion, it fits without any problem.
Thank you so much, Paolo and Sophia, for this very insightful session on advanced materials. Please remember just to if you want to have answer more questions, and sorry, if you want to raise more questions, just type them on slido.com or #challenges. We're going to the next session, the next challenge. The next challenge is on biotechnology-driven low-emission food and feed production systems. And we are going to have Giuseppina Luvara, who is Policy Officer at the DG Research and Innovation, BE2, Bioeconomy and Food Systems, which will be followed by Ivan Stefanic, who is EIC Program Manager in Food Chain Technologies, Novel and Sustainable Food. I leave the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, and good morning to all. And really, thank you for this invitation. And I'm pleased also to introduce this communication that was adopted last March by the Commission. And it's a communication on building the future with nature, boosting biotechnology and biomanufacturing in the EU. Next slide, please. First of all, just as a general introduction, this is one of the communication, the last communication, together also with the advanced material that was introduced previously by my colleague of the previous European Commission. And this communication was, let's say, something that was really welcome by all the stakeholders and the member states, because it's the last biotechnology communication was already in 2002, but also because it was, you know, a communication that was expecting by all the actors in view of all the technologies that are developing, in particular the biotechnologies. Of course, because it was a communication that was adopted at the end of the previous mandate of the Commission, it was just, you know, it opens the door to set up a little bit also the future. And I'm pretty sure that also the new upcoming commission, when it will be set up, will give a very strong continuity to this communication. The communication, of course, try in particular to summarize what are the current challenges and the barrier that we have on biotechnology and biomanufacturing. And this identification of challenges identify 8 challenges which really cover several sectors, because when we talk about biotechnology, we don't only focus on one sector, we focus on agri-food sector, we focus on pharma sectors, and so on. Together with the challenges, the communication also try to provide 8 area of opportunities that needs to be also to develop in order to address these challenges. And at the end, the Commission, due indeed to the end of its mandate, highlight also some short-term actions, punctual actions that has to be delivered by the end of this year or in the course of 2025. So it was a very targeted communication, which really was also, despite you know, the end of the Commission, identified also action that really need to be implemented in a short-term time. Of course, what is also important when we talk about biotechnology and biomanufacturing is all that we always consider that Europe or European Union, we don't really work only in silos, but we work also in collaboration with international partners. And this is something that is also important when we refer to biotechnologies, the engagement and the collaboration with in our international scenario with the international partners such as US, China, Korea, etc. Next slide, please. So I just introduced the 8 challenges. So one of the challenges is the research and technology transfer to the market. And how really it is important, not only research per se on biotechnology and biomanufacturing, but also to always consider that our investment has also to be on product, on innovative product that really are ready to go to the European market. So this is one of the challenges, how we are going to do it, how we are going to get faster the introduction of this innovative product in the European market. And of course, this is something that also my previous colleague said by mentioning the Draghi letter report. This is something that also is very highlighted politically also in these studies and this report by Letta and Draghi. The other one challenge is the regulatory complexity. Of course, there are regulation in the EU, which really has giving an added values because they also ensure high standard of about the safety of the product. But of course, there are sometimes also complex regulatory framework. And then this is a challenge for the companies that really has to go to the market. The other challenge is the access to finance. What kind of a financial instrument we can use EU that can be public, private investment that really can be used in order to facilitate this to facilitate the access for companies. Another challenge is the skills. When we talk about biotechnology, we cannot really expect that everybody has an expertise on biotechnologies. And then it's important a little bit to invest on university, but also to transform the preparation at the university for students, let's say, into job. How we are going to transform this expertise into jobs. The other challenge is the value chain obstacle, because sometimes there are value chain that are short, but sometimes the value chain is longer, and there are some obstacles along the value chain. The intellectual properties is also a challenge because, of course, the company wants also to preserve the intellectual properties. The other challenge is the public acceptance. When we talk about biotechnology, still the public needs to be informed, but also need to inform in order to be able to accept these biotechnology products. And the last challenge is the economic security. So really also to ensure that also we are in economic security and certain elements are fully considered. Next slide, please. Opportunity. If we have all these challenges, the Commission said we need absolutely to create opportunity to avoid the obstacle and to address all the challenges. Opportunity so are in the area of research innovation, which we will play an important role, as I said, not only for academia, university, company doing research, but also for small and medium enterprises and startup that really need absolutely to have a very strong and innovation in these areas. The other opportunity is how we are going to stimulate the market demand by knowing that the EU is today at the second place in the world, but still we are behind the US and very close to China. So we need absolutely to stimulate the market demand in order also to boost competitiveness in the EU. The other opportunity that the Commission will look in order to address this challenge, we were talking about regulatory difficulties, regulatory obstacles. So we are going also to look at the authorization of the process in order to get a little bit faster regulatory approach. Another opportunity will be also to look at public and private investment, or public and private investments. Strengthening so the biotech related skills, which I mentioned already before. Another also aspect to consider is how we are going to develop standards that are very important in order also to meet the EU expectations about the new product that has to go to the market. The collaboration and synergies, so we will create in the EU collaborations between different partners, but also synergies between different EU funding. So we have Horizon Europe, we have other union program, and we need to ensure that really there are synergies that really target biotechnology actions. And the last, indeed, opportunity will be how to foster this engagement and international collaborations, as I mentioned before. Next slide, please. I mentioned that at the end of the communication, we have 8 actions, short term. So what the Commission is working on is the simplification of the regulatory framework and having a faster access to market. So we launch a study in order really to prepare the fundamental for the EU Biotech Act, but it's also true that our President von der Leyen would like to have this EU Biotech Act by the end of 2025. So we will have in parallel a study, and then we are already working on the preparation of this EU Biotech Act by next year. The second action is the hub. So the Commission will create a biotech hub in order to help the company to navigate in the regulatory framework, but also, and this will be done by the end of this year, but it's not only to help the company to navigate to regulatory framework, but also to give support to the company through the existing research and technology infrastructure, where to find the information. And you know that also in the EU, we have important research and technology infrastructure, not only EU infrastructure, but also national infrastructure that really are there to serve also the company. Then there will be another action that will look on how we are going to accelerate the artificial intelligence in biotechnologies. And I think that my next colleague, I don't want to say more because I know that my colleague in DG CNECT will touch this topic. Next slides, please. We will have also action on how we are going to look in investment. So how we are going, we are already, the Commission launched a study that will be ready by mid-2025, really, which will look at how we are going to support the consolidation of investment funding. And also, of course, as this is an action that when we talk about investment, also there is an action dedicated to the EIC Accelerator Work Programme 2025 that indeed has been recently adopted. So we are really, really happy also of this adoption of the work programme. Another action we look on to develop a methodology in order really to ensure the fair comparison between fossil-based and bio-based product, and this will be done and published through a communication of the Commission in 2025. Then we will have action which will refer to this cooperation with international partners like United States under the Science and Technology Agreement, and we're already working on this exchange on standard and technology approach with the United States. So this is an action that is still ongoing. And finally is the action of the revision of the European bioeconomy strategy by end 2025, which we are working on that. Now, of course, it's very important that we are having this action and which are really general, which will cover all the sectors. And as I said, now just to introduce also my colleague Ivan Stefanic, that will mostly give a more specific element that will target the agri-food sector. So with that, I think this is my last slide, and I give the floor to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giuseppina. Ivan, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear InfoDay participants, it is great pleasure to present Accelerator Challenge biotechnology-driven low emission food and feed production systems. We all hear that agriculture is a great source of GHG emission. In the next slide, we would dive a little bit deeper. Not that one, the next one. Yes, so not all GHG emissions are coming from primary production. I would say even less than half of it are farm gate emissions. The rest is pre and post-production and land change use. But agriculture is not one pushing deforestation, because agriculture is also squeezed out of agriculture space. And then next slide is even more important. We are so focused on CO2 that we even recalculate all emission to CO2 equivalents. But remember, only 0.04% of atmosphere is CO2. And there are other pollutants which are with greater detrimental effect on our atmosphere, like methane or nitrous gases. So next slide actually explain why this challenge. This is analysis from European Environment Agency, and they predict how we could reduce emissions with existing measures, but then even with additional measures, this reduction would be actually small. So we need this challenge to improve agriculture to be in line in our climate goals. Next slide is about scope. So we notice that sources of different GHG emissions are different, and there is no single measure that could fix it all. So we need broader context. We need different measures to address GHG emission reduction properly. So next slide is the most important one. It is about specific objectives. First is biotechnology for biopesticides, biostimulants, and biofertilizers. It goes to scaling breakthroughs in the use of microorganisms or their biological components, or enzymatic or other biotechnology-based processes using biomass residues or waste streams in an innovative and sustainable way for production of new renewable materials, and then contributing by that to circular economy. The second one is biotechnology to support precision crop and livestock farming. Covers different approaches that could, for example, leverage new plant breeding technologies or enhance desirable traits through biotechnology to complement and to be integrated with crop precision and livestock farming. The third one is very important because it is really difficult to capture methane. So we have to prevent its production. And there are different measures that could help us in that. It is about novel components, feed processing for digestibility, advanced food additives, and selective breeding, because production of methane is highly heritable trait, and we could fix it. Altogether, those measures combined could significantly reduce GHG emissions. But in the end, the fourth one is something to reinforce our food supply chain and food security by introducing precision fermentation for food and feed production. Next slide is about importance. Regardless of specific area addressed, companies are encouraged to leverage digital tools and AI, but also other key enabling technologies. Since we are talking about research and innovation, it is important that all projects consider life cycle assessment, considering environmental, social, and economic considerations. Proposals are also expected to consider regulatory aspects, especially in some specific objectives. And then, of course, alongside issues surrounding consumer acceptance. And then we support projects which could scale up fast and produce effect we want. So it is about articulating suitable strategies to support market entry within, but even beyond the EU. The next slide is about expected outcomes. We would definitely like to improve the sustainability and resilience of the European agri-food system by helping it overcome challenges linked to climate change and environmental stresses, including biodiversity loss and pollution. But we are somehow counting with technology we still don't have. And for that reason, we need challenges like Accelerator Challenge, which would provide breakthrough solution, but developed with highest possible environmental standards. And then it is vital to support Commission strategic initiatives and programs in building the future with nature. Like all other challenges, this one, in next slide, has certain requirements. It is about budget and about deadline. So you have fairly complex procedure to apply. It is vital to start as early as possible. You already checked the work program. Now you are at Info Days. Prepare yourself in time and give us proposals which could really change the future. And by saying that, I think next slide is thank you or Slido code for questions.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Giuseppina, for these presentations on biotechnology and biomanufacturing in the EU, and for the explanation of the goals on this challenge. So let's go to read the first question. Are projects related to food ingredients obtained from seaweed, macroalgae, using processes that are not precision fermentation covered by this challenge?
Okay, it is not where it's come from. It is for what is purposed. If those ingredients could reduce methane production at ruminant animals, the answer is yes. So pay attention to specific objectives.
Thank you, Ivan. Let's go to the next one. Should the LCA be conducted during the project, or does the company have to have it ready when applying for the EIC Accelerator Challenge?
Okay, that's a very good question, very relevant. Let's take a deep breath. Applicants applying to Accelerator are at least at Technology Readiness 6. It is good if they have some preliminary results of the analysis. That would mean they were really paying attention to what's going on with their products. So yes, it is desirable. It will reinforce your application. It contributes to excellence of your application. But we are not expecting to have fully blown, complete LCA analysis. So if you don't have it, show us your preliminary results and show us plan. What do you plan to do during the project implementation?
Next one. Are projects related to improving insect rearing efficiencies as a means to expand conventional food and feed production fitting this challenge?
I guess this participant is aiming towards specific objective 3, production of food and feed, but this is specifically mentioned, it is about precision fermentation. And by saying that, I think they have their answer.
Thank you. Giuseppina, if you would like to add something, I don't know if...
No, it's clear because indeed, if it's precision fermentation, is a microorganism. So insects are not microorganisms. So I think it's very clear the answer from given by Ivan.
Thank you. Are low emission technologies using innovative sources of biomass, seaweed, for food feed production aligned with this challenge?
I think we had similar question already. The question was focused on origin of the food ingredient, but challenge is about use of that particular ingredient. If fits to specific objective 3, I would say yes. If doesn't, yeah, then we have issue with that.
Thank you. Does the LCA need to be presented in the short proposal? Which questions would it need to be addressed in? What is expected about the LCA in the full application? Do we need to annex a study, or is it referring to the communication of main outcomes of the LCA analysis? I think we have like 3-4 questions here, so even just
Yes,
go.
I could just amend it when we say we would like to have really complete and holistic LCA. It is not only about technology, it is about socioeconomic aspect. So yes, please check state of the art of LCA analysis of that type, and you have all your answers.
Next one. Would the production of insect-based proteins be a relevant topic under this challenge?
I think we had very similar, if not identical questions. So
Yes.
Let's move to the next one.
What is the definition of fertilizers in this objective? Would growing media, soilless substrates, be understood to be fertilizer in this context?
Okay, so when we talk about fertilizers in scope of this challenge, we think about fertilizers of microbial origin, not one coming out of fossil fuel and Haber-Bosch production system. So, but there are different alternatives, different microorganisms for different nutrients. So it is fairly a big playground, which could be actually quite considerably enhanced if we pay attention, working with nature, with additional microorganisms, and other living organisms in the soil.
I would also maybe add even that also with the fertilizer, we need also to see the definition that we have and in the regulation of fertilizers. Should be also related to the regulatory framework on
Yes.
fertilizer that we have.
Yes. Thank you, Giuseppina.
Thank you both. I think you can go to the previous one. Okay, I'm going with this one, and then would a solution related to the recycling of agricultural plastics, which have so far been unrecyclable, fit to the challenge?
Oh. It's a tricky one. That would depend on LCA analysis and scope and target of the specific objective. I'm not so convinced. I would definitely need more information.
But also, if I may, is a solution for the recycling. Could you go back? Sorry for the question on the recycling, because I think it's out a little bit of the scope, what it means, because the scope, I think, is more for food and feed. And here we are talking about the use of microorganisms that could help the degradation of agricultural plastics. But I think it's more something that is more related, of course, to the environmental pollution, but it's more an action of the microorganism targeting only, the degradation of the plastic in order to ensure the recycling. So we need to really to pay attention also what is in mind, what is really the objective through this solution that is proposed in these questions.
Yeah, but let's go back to title of the challenge. It's actually reducing greenhouse gas emissions. If they could prove they are doing that by this particular project, it would be considered, but it doesn't look like that at the moment.
Next one. Would veterinary solutions for stock animals to improve their health and welfare and hence reduce mortality due to infection be part of the challenge?
This is certainly a very valuable topic, but it seems to me it's more for open than challenge, because I don't see from the question it actually tackle production of enteric methane in any way.
And it is also look more, this question is more related to antimicrobial, I think, resistance in order to ensure also because they're talking about infections. So I think it's more another topic in this question. I think there is a little bit of a deviations, just to understand a little bit better.
Yeah. But in the other hand, there might be some veterinary solution for reducing enteric methane production. So I wouldn't discard veterinary applications at that stage, but this one is apparently focused on something else, not on greenhouse gas emissions.
Indeed.
Thank you. Next one. Is there any expected distribution of projects between the 4 specific objectives?
We would like to cover all 4 specific objectives. So definitely it is not about focus on just one of them. So the question is actually, yes, we would cover all 4.
And we go to the last one. Would an AI-driven software designed to support the efficient use of biopesticides in the context of precision crop management fit this challenge?
I would say this project might have a case if it's associated with something which is product. And definitely AI is crucial key enabling technology for all specific objectives. We definitely need smarter measuring, monitoring technologies. We also need AI to simulate long-term effect. You know, humans are extremely narrow-focused and short-term. AI could help us actually anticipating long-term effect of proposed solutions. And just to be clear, during all those interviews I attended, I noticed some amazingly robust solutions. They were working just as claimed, but long-term effect, even short-term effect on animal health, on biodiversity, wasn't so nice. So definitely AI, if deployed in such projects, could be a game-changing element in your proposal.
And can I also add one element here, even that indeed the software is not only to support, but also to monitor the use of a biopesticide. And the monitoring is also an important element that has to be considered when we use a biopesticide in the precision crop management.
And we got a new question. Are solutions related to the well-being of bees eligible under this challenge?
Okay. For the record, I'm a huge fan of bees. They are so important. I think their role is so underestimated. But we had last year maybe more appropriate challenge. It was novel technologies for resilient agriculture. And then bees could really contribute to that. In the scope of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, I'm just not sure.
There's another one. Are technologies aiming to enhance pollination to support smart precision crop and biodiversity within the scope of the challenge?
It's actually quite similar to the previous beekeeping question, and I think they are simply not. But please, do not take that as a discouragement. That might be excellent open proposal.
Thank you. So I think with this, we have finished this session. Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you so much, Giuseppina, for your insightful session. And I would pass now to the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you.
So the third challenge is Gen AI for you, creating European champions in generative AI. We're going to have Cécile Houet, Head of Unit of CNECT AI1 in Excellence in Artificial Intelligence Robotics. And her presentation is going to be followed by the presentation of the EIC PMs, Heidi Karai, who is Program Manager in Artificial Intelligence at EIC, and Federica Zanca, who is Program Manager in Medical Imaging and AI in Healthcare. I leave the floor to Cécile. Thank you, Cécile. Since we are just ahead of schedule, I think, yes, we can just have a break of 5 minutes, and then we resume at 10:45 at the scheduled time for this third session. Thank you. Very good. Just to restart in 1 minute, 10:45. Meanwhile, just I can reintroduce the name of the challenge. We have Gen AI for EU, creating European champions in generative AI. And we have Cecile, who is going to give us this overview today. Thank you. And then we will have the presentation of the PMs, AD and Federica. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Maria. Let me know if I can start. We are 10:45, so you assume it is okay
it's
to start?
10:45. We are on time.
Very good. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for this opportunity to present the policy side and the overall Europe generative AI strategy in order to give a bit of the context of this this call about creating European champion in generative AI. I am Cécile and I'm the head of the unit called Excellence in AI and Robotics, and we are part of the European AI office, and overall we are in charge of the program funding the research and development when it comes to the development of this technology, and we are collaborating closely with the EIC colleague to define this call for proposal in the context of EIC. Next slide, please. So to give indeed a bit of context, in which framework are we operating? What is the ecosystem of excellence? So we have been developing the ecosystem of excellence over the years. We have been funding research in AI and robotics for many years. And where do we start from, and what is the next steps? So you have probably read about the new political direction and the guidance, the specific guidance from the president for the next European Commission puts a lot of emphasis on AI. So three key elements which are mentioned there is the development and the diffusion of AI, which is considered as a key component for the competitiveness of our industry and all the sectors in general. And more specific actions are part of this political guidelines, and also from the Draghi report, is to develop an AI, an apply AI strategy with the goal of boosting a new industrial use case of AI and to improve the delivery of public services such as healthcare. And the third element, which is mentioned and very relevant for AI, is the setting up of a European AI Research Council, which will address more the fundamental research in AI. Next slide, please. So, but how do we go there from what we have today? So we have over the year built this ecosystem. Next slide. And how is it structured so far? So the way we were presenting the overall ecosystem of AI, so we have the ecosystem of trust, which is basically the development of the AI Act, and hands in hands with that, we have been developing the ecosystem of excellence with the view of developing very strong technology to support trusted and human-centric AI development in Europe, but also supporting the activities from the lab to the market. So the way we operated is we have a public-private partnership on AI, data, and robotics, and this partnership has as a private partner an association which represents the community. So if you're not yet a member of ADRA, I would strongly encourage you to becoming a member. It's a very useful tool to influence strategy, and the strategy they're developing is the basis of our funding priorities, and also it's a very useful tool to network and be informed of the latest news. Now, from the strategy developed by ADRA, we identify call for proposal, priority for this funding, and we fund research and innovation project. In addition to that, then we fund networks of excellence centers, and the goal is to bring the best research lab to work together and progress on some key technology development which prevents the adoption of this technology. So, so far we have been funding for 100 million euro in such networks of excellence, and that represent more than 1,000 researchers in the field. Moreover, we have tools to support the community. One of them is the AI on Demand platform. This platform has two sides. One of them, which is has been so far developed, is the one that support more the research community. It aims to have a tool where resources are made available to researchers and developers to facilitate the development of AI tools, AI software, and so on, any AI resources. And also we ask every project to also put their result available for the other on the platform, so that, I mean, the communicable result, of course, so that we advance faster in not reinventing the wheel all the time. So this platform is for you to use, so feel free to use it and improving over time. Soon, this platform is going to have a more industry leg, and the goal would be then to develop a kind of marketplace, which would also help innovators in Europe to make their solutions, their products and services on AI more visible and accessible at European level. So it should also boost the uptake and the support to AI innovators in Europe. In addition to that, we have the testing and experimentation facilities, which are environment and let's say infrastructure, where AI innovators from Europe can test their AI solution in real or very close to real environment. And we have 4 environments represented in healthcare, smart city and communities, manufacturing, and agri-food. Finally, we have what I call the last mile delivery, the European Digital Innovation Hub, which are more distributed and local, and their goal is to help the transformation, the digital transformation of their local economy through their support. And they are focusing, many of them are focusing on AI, and we are more and more encouraging them to really help the AI adoption in their ecosystem. And in addition to that, we also have a more financial instrument like the EIC and InvestEU. Next slide, please. So what we have done after the storm coming from generative AI, we have adapted all our programs in order to also to adapt to the generative AI wave and make sure that Europe is preparing for the next generation of the generative AI solution. So we have been calling for multimodal integration, for explainable and robust AI, including in particular generative AI, to address the weaknesses of these systems. In the Digital Europe program, we have been calling also for LLM covering all the European languages, trained on European data, to make sure that it's not a mere translation of an American system in our languages. It should reflect really our culture as well. And we have been already launching a previous EIC Accelerator and now a new one, which is really focusing on generative AI and training of foundation model. Next slide, please. So it gives you a bit the context of generative AI. And what happened last January, in January 2024, we have announced an innovation package. And the goal of this package was basically to put Europe on the map of generative AI. This package is a 4 billion euro investment, which has 2 main legs. One of them is the AI factories, which is providing Euro HPC access to computing facilities, in particular to AI developer and startup SMEs, and the Generative, which is promoting the development and uptake of innovative generative AI solution in our strategic sector in Europe, because we need to equip them with European solution to keep their competitiveness. Next slide, please. Then we will implement, so we have 500 million euro for Generative that we are going to implement via the different priorities and cluster in the European, in the Horizon Europe program. I will not go into the detail. Next slide, please. This is just to explain that how in healthcare generative AI can be useful. I will go quickly because time is passing. So in healthcare, we have interesting contribution from Gen AI to progress the healthcare field. Next slide. Cybersecurity, same thing, advancing, but we have to be careful also that Gen AI can be used to reinforce a cyber attack. Next slide, please. Same for robotics and manufacturing that can bring the next wave of robotics competitiveness in Europe and also help in manufacturing to keep also manufacturing in Europe thanks to the use of generative AI in robotics. Next slide, please. The same for energy. It has a big potential impact in the energy sector. Next slide, please. And yeah, what I wanted to say that in the Draghi report, we are going to continue and reinforce this because this Gen AI for you was only the first step, but then in the Draghi report, we have the statement that we need to develop and uptake the AI in particular in all the vertical application, which is key for the competitiveness. And you see a mapping between the sector we had already in the strategy and what is in the Draghi report. Next slide, please. And that's it for me. I stick to my 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cécile, for this overview about the generative AI strategy of Europe. You already have here your Slido code. Please raise your questions. Now is the turn of Adi. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session to introduce the challenge on Gen AI for Europe. So creating European champions in generative AI that I will present in collaboration with my colleague, Federica Zanca. So let's say this call and the challenge aim to support startups and SMEs committed to bring transformative AI-driven solutions to market. So the budget of this challenge is 50 million. As explained in the previous presentations regarding the application process, there is 2 stages of submitting. So the short application that you can submit anytime. And if you get a positive answer for the short application, you can submit a full proposal. And for that, there is 2 deadlines, March 12th and October 1st, 25. Next slide, please. So as we already heard from Cécile from the AI office about the expected impact of Gen AI and the European perspectives on the topic, this challenge is driven by a European aim to build innovative, trustworthy Gen AI solutions that tackle the technical challenges still faced by those models, such as hallucination, explainability, accuracy, and also the lack of transparency, accountability in decision making, which, let's say, undermines trust and poses questions regarding the safety and reliability of the systems. These are even more critical in the case of more advanced applications that need greater scale and integration within user workflows, particularly in sensitive or safety critical settings like clinical workflows or the management of critical infrastructures. Next slide, please. In terms of objectives, this challenge will support startups and SMEs that either working further on developing and validating new Gen AI foundation models, or also adapting existing models to specific sectors or type of data where smaller and faster and more energy efficient models would also be applicable, or also integrating and testing GenAI solutions in existing workflows, and then testing this in regulatory sandbox and real-life settings, including certification and post-market surveillance as appropriate. So in alignment with the Draghi report and as Cécile presented regarding the focus on vertical AI systems by domains, we specifically target 8 specific areas of applications in this challenge, which are healthcare, energy, security, public sector, cultural and creative sectors, and industries, manufacturing, education, and science. That will evoke the aim, address it for each area in next slides. So let me give the floor to my colleague Federica to provide an overview on the application in healthcare. Next slide.
Thank you very much, Eddie. So my name is Federica Zanca, and I am the program manager in medical imaging and AI in healthcare. And indeed, I will tell you a little bit more about the healthcare subject. So as we know, healthcare is quite at the front runner for AI, with this topic, we are specifically looking for SME, which are focusing on human and AI interaction in radiology. And the aim would be to develop tools which are generative AI based to automate and enhance the efficiency of the radiology report generation. And this to reduce, for example, the turnaround time for reporting and allowing a quicker diagnosis or treatment planning. Then we're looking for solutions that optimize the workflow, focusing, for example, on triaging and prioritization of imaging studies. We look also that these applications, so this developed application product tools, needs to ensure accuracy and consistency. So we are looking for quality assurance aspect of this tool as well, not only of the AI-powered tools for automatic report generation, but also with respect to the integration of AI results coming from other applications. For example, we know that in radiology, we have a lot of application for breast cancer detection, lung cancer detection, and often these results are integrated in the radiology report. So we expect that the quality assurance and testing of this application includes all aspects of AI which are in the report. Then we, of course, want this tool to help boost productivity, to alleviate the workload that the radiologists have and address the shortage of radiologists, as well as the increasing burnouts, unfortunately. And last but not least, this tool should focus also on interoperability, meaning that we expect seamless clinical integration with existing IT infrastructure like the RIS, the PACS, the EHR system, and any other infrastructure which is in the clinical workflow. Thank you, Eddie. I give the floor back to you.
Thank you, Federica. Next slide, please. So regarding the energy, we are looking for GenAI solutions contributing to firstly managing the power grid alongside the storage and use of renewable by grid operators, or also delivering safe real-time decision-making to enhance resilience and planning for energy. So this is the two, let's say, umbrella under this area of energy. Next slide, please. Should be security. And for that, we are looking for GenAI solutions that can contribute to support security professionals to scale their work in, let's say, threat and vulnerability detection and the subsequent response of threats, including those operating in critical infrastructures, or also support fault-tolerant, high-quality, and secure AI systems. Let's back to the education domain and about what you are looking as contributions So the main objective is to have and to reach generative AI solutions that can contribute to enable personalized and adaptive learning experience for trainees, and also enhance the educational outcomes and accessibility for the resources. Next slide, please. So it's about science. And for that, we are looking for Gen AI solutions contributing to driving new levels of productivity and capability for researchers as research assistants, or Gen AI solutions for data analysis and so on, and also fostering innovation and scientific advancements. Next slide, please. So after presenting those different areas, we need to highlight the expected outcomes and impact, and to emphasize the fact that the AI models developed under this challenge are expected to comply with European, let's say, perspective regarding the trustworthy AI and relevant ethical principles, with due attention paid to data quality, transparency, accountability, privacy, and security. And in the medium to longer term, it is expected to reduce dependencies and support companies in leveraging the advances in generative AI, enhance their products, and develop new ones. So new ones in terms of generative AI, but also all of that has objective to optimize existing workflows, to streamline and improve operational processes across various industries, also applying those advanced AI models to enhance decision-making, creativity, and productivity, and so enhance the human capabilities, and also ensuring that those AI models are both advanced and thoroughly validated for practical applicability and scalability in real-world scenarios. So it's important to go through validation by application. Next slide, please. So regarding the benefits, so in addition to the funding, so the selected beneficiaries will receive favorable access to the European supercomputing resources for the training of their foundation models in the context of the AI factories in line with the Euro HPC regulation. Also, they may benefit from additional actions aimed at creating strategic partnership with major industries or attract further capital. In addition, also when it's important for them, so benefits from more collaboration with the European Open Science Cloud. Next slide, please. So the contribution of those, let's say, projects will be key for the development of European industry in the area of AI. That's why there is some specific conditions. So all technologies under this challenge must be developed in a robust manner, paying specific attention to safety, security, ethics consideration in the future applications. And in order to achieve the expected outcomes and safeguard the union's strategic assets, interest, autonomy, and security, it is important to avoid situations of, let's say, technological dependency on non-European sources. And for this reason, recipient of the grant and the equity component of accelerator funding must not be directly or indirectly controlled by a non-associated third country. I think this is my last slide, so I will repeat that we are looking forward for your applications to shape the future of those strategic areas with trustworthy, robust Gen AI made in Europe. Thank you, and if you have questions, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Heidi and Federica. for this presentation on generative AI for you. Let's go to our questions here. So in the Gen AI for EU call, there is a list of sectors. What if we meet the challenge goals, but within a sector that is not listed? Would this be considered eligible? Who would like to take this question?
So this challenge has a dedicated application areas or sectors. So to fit, we need to be in one of them. So maybe in the future there is other challenges that are open for other sectors. Cecile presented different sectors that they are not also in this challenge, but the aim is to support all those sectors in the future, and this is, I think, in the strategy of the Commission.
Thank you, Heidi. I will go to the next one. How will the deep tech criterion be assessed in the context of this challenge? How can a TRL6 be justified? In the case of generative AI solutions, the difference between TRL5 and TRL6 is not always that clear. Would like to go for this?
Yeah, so let's say what we are looking for is solutions that are already undergoing regarding development of new models or integrating in, let's say, or adapting existing models for those sectors. So advanced development is we are looking for, and then the justification will be regarding the degree of applications in the sectors. So yeah, let's say it's not really clear sometimes between the TRL5 to 6, but it will depend from the let's say the application itself, the degree of the maturity of the solution. This is from my perspective. Maybe Anne-Marie, you can also add.
Yeah, I would like to add to this. So what we're looking for in Accelerator are companies that already have achieved TRL level 5. And I just looked up the definition again of TRL level 5. It means technology validated in a relevant environment. So an industrially relevant environment, if that is the context in which it is. So also for the Gen AI solutions, we want that the solution is already at TRL 5, so it has to be validated in a relevant environment. Whereas TRL 6 is that it is demonstrated in a relevant environment. So then you have already demonstrated that it's really useful. That we don't ask yet. So you should have something potentially useful, and during the project that you carry out, you can demonstrate that it is, you can move up a TRL level. But you should already really have something which is validated and which is already potentially quite powerful.
Thank you, Anne-Marie and Eddie. And the next one, is the application of existing Gen AI models like ChatGPT, GPT, BARD to specific sectors in a new way, for example, HR management or chatbots, eligible under this challenge?
Indeed. So one of the, let's say, the objective that we also will support is adapting existing models to specific sectors. So with an innovative, let's say, manner, making them smaller, faster, with new type of data and so on. So I would say yes.
Heidi, here I would also like to add, but we do want less reliance on, we want also our strategic autonomy. So therefore, it depends on what type of existing models you have. So
exactly,
if it's just the application of ChatGPT to a new sector, this doesn't reduce our dependency on on third countries' solutions. So it would not contribute to the objective of this challenge.
Thank you. In the work program, the application for healthcare specifically refers to radiology. I think this is the call for healthcare specifically refers to radiology. Can also other applications be addressed as long as they are targeting healthcare?
So the call indeed, I mean, the working program, we did mention the word radiology, which is the objective. So I think other applications would be relevant only if they connect also to radiology, meaning that you extend to other, for example, the clinical environment, but the radiology part should be present.
Thank you, Federica. Next one. If our approach is running on real data provided by clients, does that qualify us for TRL6? If not, what we will need to demonstrate in addition?
So for that, I mean, it depends on what do you mean by running in terms of, so if only the training phase was on real data or not, and then what are the outcomes if the outcomes are validated or not. So this is something to justify regarding how you are using and how it's validated and tested in real environments. This is from my perspective.
Yes, and validated, that's TRL5. Demonstrated in a relevant environment is TRL6. So I think here probably you're talking more about TRL5 than TRL6. But,
Thank you, Eddie and Anne-Marie. Can the use of generative AI in the textile industry be considered as part of the manufacturing sector under this challenge?
I mean, when we talk about manufacturing, so if your generative AI solutions are applied for manufacturing in this sector, I don't see any problem for that, but it should be like you are resolving solutions for manufacturing from manufacturing perspective regarding customization of product, flexibility of your manufacturing, let's say the automation or for design of the manufacturing plants and so on. So this is part of that, independently to which industrial sector, but the focus is on the manufacturing side.
Next, thank you, Eddie. What is considered a deep tech project and what not in this challenge? Could you please give an example?
So let's say also something that we are talking about, like we are not just looking for developing only a new model or just adapting one for a sector. There is a technical background for that, and what I mentioned regarding the challenges of generative AI. So for me, like the deep tech is like to come with Gen AI solutions that are explainable, that are transparent, accountable. So that can, let's say, trustable. So all of that technical challenges should be addressed, and a breakthrough solution should came with answers for that.
Indeed, and for instance, the mere application of an existing model without adapting it, that would not be considered deep tech. That is just application of an existing AI model.
Thank you. Next, our technology is an innovative application of off-the-shelf generative AI. Does this meet the specific objectives of the Gen AI for EU call?
So
I think that's exactly what Anne-Marie just said. If it is not developing new technology, but just applying it, this doesn't fit the call. I think, but Anne-Marie, correct me.
No, I agree. Yeah? Just applying is not, then we don't consider it deep tech. Deep tech is you also change something, you make it more energy efficient or any of the other topics that Hedy just mentioned.
Thank you, Federica. Thank you, Anne-Marie. We're going to have the last question. If one has to develop a foundational model from scratch to strengthen an existing workflow using a simpler AI model, would that be TRL 5.6 and thus eligible?
We are also looking for new models. So if you are developing new models, that's also applying to strengthen existing workflows. Let's say yes, but we back usually to the TRL. So what Anne-Marie already answered on regarding the TRL about the validation and demonstration. So it depends to which level you achieve regarding the development of your new model and also the level of validation and demonstration.
I'm a bit triggered by the word from scratch. So that to me sounds like there is nothing yet, just an idea, and that can never be at TRL level 5 because you have not validated it yet in an industrial environment. So what we say is we are supporting startups and SMEs that are further developing and validating new Gen AI models. So there should already be something. So I'm here, I am a bit with this from scratch, makes me think it is not, it will not stand a chance compared to other proposals that are further.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Anne-Marie, Hedy, and Federica, and also Cecile for this session on AI, generative AI.
Thank you, and good luck for the submission.
I think now it's time for our fourth challenge. Innovative in space servicing operations, robotics, and technologies for resilient EU space infrastructure. Now we're going to have Guillaume Delabrosse from DG DEFIS, where he's head of unit, especially focusing on space policy. And his presentation is going to be followed by Stella Kachova, who is EIC Program Manager in Space Systems and Technologies. Guillaume, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. And indeed, so I'm Guillaume Delabrosse, Head of Unit in DG DEFIS, in charge of space policy. So I'm very happy to address you all this morning and to give a bit of a background on the European space policy so that you know what's the background when it comes to the EIC Accelerator Challenges. And I really want to emphasize upfront this excellent cooperation that we have between DG DEFIS and EIC. If you can move to the next slide. So first point is, why do we need an EU space policy? And it may not be known to everybody, but actually there is indeed an EU space policy with some EU-owned constellations, and I will get back to you on this. But we do see three main drivers on why we need an European space policy. Number one is about defense security. Space assets are becoming more and more important when it comes to ensuring security interests of the Union and the member states. It matters very much in the current geopolitical context, and even more since this morning. So we very much value the role that space assets can bring in support of defense and security, be it in terms of intelligence, positioning, monitoring of critical infrastructures, or emergency and crisis management. Reason number two is competitiveness. When we talk about the space sector, actually we are talking about hardwares. So we produce satellites, we produce rockets. So we have lots of factories across Europe that produce hardwares. So this is called the upstream industry, but we have as well industry in space that use space services and space data to develop certain services. So this is what we call the downstream. Quite interesting is that space is changing very quickly, because we used to have large legacy corporates in the field of space. And actually what we see in Europe is lots of new startups and scale-ups that flourish across the EU 27. So we have lots of new companies that take advantage of business in space and develop their activities very quickly and propose new solutions, new technologies. This is what we call the new space. And that's extremely interesting, including because those new space actors from time to time come from different industries. So they bring new ideas, new industrial processes, and new technologies. But clearly, space is a strong leverage when it comes to the competitiveness of Europe. The third driver is global influence. Space, by definition, is a domain where we have to interact with international partners. It's a strong leverage for Europe to build close cooperation and close relationship with like-minded countries. We build close relationship with NATO, with the UN. And of course, one of the issues is not just about diplomacy, it's about market access. So getting access to certain third countries markets, and that's what we are doing as well as part of the economic space diplomacy. If we can move to the next slide. So we have in Europe what we call an EU space program, and actually we develop, manage, and own certain constellations of satellites. And I like to flag basically three main constellations that we have. One is Galileo, related to positioning, navigation, and timing. Here we have a constellation, and I will get back to that. Then we have Copernicus. Copernicus is about Earth observation. So we have a second constellation of satellites dedicated to Earth observation. And then we are about to deploy a third constellation, which is called IA². It's about secure connectivity. It's about telecommunication. So as you see, we have three pillars: positioning, navigation, and timing. That's number one, Galileo, Copernicus on Earth observation, and telecommunication with secure connectivity. On top of that, we are pulling assets of member states together. And this is about space situational awareness, to have an understanding of what's happening in space. And I'd like to flag here as well Cassini. Cassini is the initiative that we have put in place to give an impulse to the new space actors I was mentioning before. If we can move to the next slide, just to give you a bit of an overview where we stand today. So I'd like to start with the fact that, again, we are operating certain EU-owned assets. I was mentioning Galileo, which is about satellite navigation. So we have today more than 30 satellites, and actually we have much more satellites to deploy. A good thing with Galileo is that actually it's much more precise than the US equivalent system, so the GPS. So we have really here a world-class asset that again is more precise than the US system. Earth observation, we have Copernicus with 8 satellites deployed currently. And here again, it's the largest provider of Earth observation data in the world. And we are very proud of that. Much more satellites to be deployed as well in the years to come. And soon we will have the secure connectivity, IA². Actually, we've just awarded the contract to the consortium last week. So the contract will be signed by the end of the year. And the idea is to have initial services already in 2027 and to deploy satellites on low Earth orbit as of 2027, then up until 2029. And here we're talking about roughly 350 satellites that will be deployed in the upcoming years. Then I'd like to mention the fact that we are enhancing resilience, of course, of our space systems. We are enhancing their cybersecurity. It's getting, I mean, because they are gaining strategic value, they are much more exposed to cyber threats. So we are enhancing their cybersecurity. But resilience is also about technological sovereignty. I mean, we are trying to reduce our technological non-dependencies. So for certain technologies, we are buying them from non-EU providers. Sometimes we're very dependent. So we are trying to cut those dependencies, at least where it makes sense to be more sovereign. Space research and innovation. We have indeed a strong research and innovation agenda with two core objectives. One is to accelerate the evolution of the EU assets, but also to de-risk technological maturation and to prepare the ground for pilot missions. So we are trying to deploy pilot missions in quite risky domains. And here I'd like to mention two. One is quantum. So we will deploy a quantum space gravimetry. And actually, we will be the first in the world deploying such a mission by 2030. But a second pilot mission, and we'll get back to that later on, is about in-space operation and services. So this is about robotic in space, and here as well we want to deploy a first EU mission by 2030. Space for defense, I mentioned that. Basically, it's getting more and more a must in the current geopolitical context. We need to use and leverage space to defend our security interests. And here as well, we need to collaborate even more with Ukraine. I mentioned Cassini. This is our program to support innovative startups and scale-ups. Actually, here we are talking about access to equities, access to private investments. This is really one of the core objectives of Cassini. And today we're very proud because we've got we've supported more than 600 startups and scale-ups, and close to 2 billion equities were raised about the last years. So which is a very good figure, but we need to do more. We have few challenges in the years to come, which is growth, capital, and access to procurement, but I will get back to that. And this is where we have a very close collaboration with the European Innovation Council. And last one I'd like to mention, access to space. It's about regaining sovereignty when it comes to our launches. We had a crisis during 1 year. 1 year during which we had no autonomous launches in Europe. So we had to rely on non-EU launch service providers. So we are trying now to regain autonomy and access to space. This is one of the top priority of this new commission. If you move to the next slide. A few challenges when it comes to space, and those are challenges that we will have to address when preparing the next multi-annual financial framework. I'd like to mention 3 of them. Challenge number 1 is threats to space infrastructure. Again, I was mentioning the fact that space on one side is gaining strategic value, but it means that the space assets are more and more exposed to cyber attacks or other types of threats. This is why we need to basically enhance the resilience of our space infrastructures. Challenge number 2 is about public and private investment gaps. If we compare Europe to the US, actually US is investing 6 times more than Europe when it comes to public investment, so public money that support space activities. And when it comes to private investment, in the US, private investors are investing 4 times more than in Europe. So as you see, we do have a large investment gap that was actually pinpointed by Draghi in his report. It has some effect, including in terms of erosion of the competitiveness of our legacy industry. It is a challenge as well for our new space actors. If they don't find in Europe growth capital, they will actually turn to US investors. and onshore their commercialization and industrialization activities in the US, which is a big challenge and would be a big missed opportunity for us. A last challenge is about market barrier. We have across Europe different legislations when it comes to space. So almost each member state has its own space legislation with different rules, and it creates a regulatory patchwork. So this is something we are trying to get rid of and harmonize basically and create a EU single market for space. This is the EU space law, but we need really to create this single market for space that today does not exist. The last challenge when it comes to space is speed and agility. Space is an industry that is changing very quickly. We used to take our time when it comes to developing certain assets. So the development time was easily 6, 7, up to 10 years. But actually, we see a massive transformation of the space industry. Again, these new commercial entrants are developing very quickly. Those companies are providing new technologies, new services, new solutions, and we need to design basically our way, our internal processes in a much more agile way to take advantage of this new space wave that is coming in Europe. It means speed in technological maturation and flight heritage. So when we give flight heritage is testing and qualifying certain technologies in space, but it's also about agility in public procurement. So we need to be faster and we need to take more risk and basically to give a chance as well to this new commercial entrants in buying services and offering contracts, public contracts to them. Next slide. Yeah, I just want to zoom into the subject matter of today, which is in-space operations and services. And Stella will get back to you on this. But just to give you some backgrounds when it comes to the policy background, because this is very much now part of the work program of the EIC Accelerator for 2025. But this is a topic that is getting, strategic importance on the European side. Why? First, because if it is a strategic capacity for resilience, it will give us means and capacities to do inspection, to do damages assessment, to do repair and maintenance, refueling, but also to upgrade assets in the future. It's also a strategic capacity for governmental use. Here we're talking about protection of space assets in orbit. So it is really gaining strategic value. It is also key for the competitiveness of our industry. It's basically about creating a new market, a new business market. And we are proud because in Europe we have several new commercial entrants that are testing services and that will actually have first contract with large constellations operators in the upcoming years. So we need really to create the market for those new commercial entrants, and I will get back to that. Why does it matter as well? Because there is a global competition, global race on this, and we have already non-European nations that are preparing the grounds for in-space operations and services. So this is key that Europe is not losing ground and that we have sovereign solutions prepared in Europe. If you move to the next slide. On the EU side, so basically it is a top priority, and we have tried to put in place different lines of action to again accelerate the emergence of that market in Europe. So first, we have a pilot mission that we are putting together with the support of Horizon Europe. So this pilot mission will be deployed by 2030. This is a pilot mission that will be composed of 4 components: services, a host platform, logistics, and SAT apps. And we very much see this pilot mission as a potential precursor for a future strategic flagship in the future. Here, I'd like really to mention that EIC and the EIC beneficiaries, that will be selected as part of the work program 2025. Clearly, there is space to plug you into this pilot mission. So we are happy to tell you more about that. But there will be space, and actually we're designing this pilot mission to really facilitate the onboarding of new commercial entrants. So really stay tuned on this one, because we want to really ensure that it's a mission including for new space companies. Second line of action is about technological maturation and development of new solutions. Here, through Horizon Europe, but through Cassini as well, we are accelerating the development of new businesses, as mentioned before. We are trying as well to create synergies with other funding instruments, including the European Defence Funds. There will be a project related to in-space operation services as part of the work program of EDF in 2025, and we are ensuring consistency between the different funding instruments, so be it Horizon Europe, EIC, and the European Defence Fund. A third action that I'd like to mention, the regulatory aspect. So, and here we have two main activities. One is the EU Space Law. As you know, the EU Space Law will be issued in 2025. And actually, the space law will entail certain measures related to in-space operation and services, and that will accelerate the emergence of a market here for the first time ever. There will be some mandatory measures. And we will, through the EU space law, create mandates to develop certain standards with the European standardization organizations. So here we will create standards that will facilitate, including this plug and play between services and the serviceable objects. And then the last piece of action that we are preparing is about the EU space assets through the space regulation. So we want that the next generation of the EU space assets are ready for in-space services. So this is something that we are preparing as well, so that we can open up to new services in the future. So this is my last point. So I'd like really to thank you all. And now I'd like to, if you have any questions, of course, please do not hesitate to contact me or my team. Daniel Nölke is connected to this presentation. Daniel Nölke is leading the work in my team on in-space operation services and working very closely with Stella. So don't hesitate to reach out in case you have any questions. Thank you so much, Stella. I give you the floor.
Thank you, Guillaume, for the excellent introduction and for our very good cooperation together for fast-track access to IOD, IOV flight opportunities and in the frame of Cassini. So, dear all, I would try to be quick and to the point because it's almost lunchtime. So I think we are all ready to have lunch. So next slide, please. So today I would like to tell you a little bit about the EIC Space Portfolio Roadmap, the Accelerator Challenge, and just to provide you with feedback on what are the portfolio activities we do and some success stories. Next slide, please. So the EIC Space Technology Roadmap includes all the space-related topics which have been written and challenges in the work program. So We have in 2023 in-space solar energy harvesting, where 9 projects were selected with the idea to collect, transmit, and use this energy for in-space green propulsion from Tier 1 to Tier 4. Then we had the Accelerator Challenge on customer-driven innovative space applications, which is for companies and startups. And this year, we have the Pathfinder Challenge on strengthening the mitigation of space debris mitigation, remediation, and in-space recycling, but for projects which are Tier 1 to Tier 4. However, next year, and in 2025, we will have the challenge on innovative in-space servicing, operations, in-space robotics, technologies for resilient EU space infrastructure. As you can see very well, the topic proposed for 2025, it's kind of a follow-up and relates a lot to the previous topics. So, next slide, please. As you know very well, current satellites are designed, built, and launched not to be serviced, repaired, upgraded, or refueled. And very often, due to the depletion of fuel, they become space debris. Almost 85% are discarded due to fuel leaks and deployment failures during launch. So clearly, also, the fuel depletion happens because there are increased collision avoidance maneuvers. As you know, there are more than 12,000 tons of debris, with a lot of debris clouds in particularly low Earth orbits and around 777 kilometers, due to the increased launch of satellite and satellite constellations. However, geostationary satellites are also endangered. At the moment, we also have 650 geosatellites with 120 beyond their lifetime. And some geosatellites, actually, they can be serviced. Already 3-4 years ago, we witnessed the mission extension, the MEF1 and the MEF2, life extension of satellites by non-EU countries. Nevertheless, this demonstrates the satellites' lives were extended with 5 years. Clearly, there are opportunities here which could be pursued, but we do lack actually these mature capabilities to extend the lifetime. And we have the companies, we have the capabilities, but we haven't had already European missions following on. And I hope in the future with the ISOs, the emerging one, we will see more and more companies. So, next slide, please. This is an emerging market. And because satellite operators satellite owners, actually, they do generate cost savings, and there is an emerging market. There are various numbers. Some range the claim that the iOS is 2.3 billion euros in 2023. Others claim it's 6 billion will reach by 2033. But it is clear that it is a market in which European companies need to tap in and actually provide competitive capabilities. We need also increased mobility and moving from LEO and GEO and cost-efficient propulsion, because companies need to, and satellite owners need to keep actually their orbital slots. So by keeping their orbital slots and extending the lifetime of their satellites. Just a concrete example, for example, the servicing of the IAS 901 actually concretely brought direct cost savings to the geosatellite owner of between 200 and 400 million euros. In addition, these are capabilities which could actually support companies for future cislunar exploration and provide services. and also have technology transfer spillovers for terrestrial applications in the domain of energy or nuclear energy. Next slide, please. But the third area, which I'm really concerned and on which Guillaume touched upon, there are many, many emerging threats. We have been witnessing signal spoofing, nav jamming, RF interference, but also when we talk about threats, we talk about space debris threats impacting spacecraft. Actually, just last week, we witnessed the fragmentation of the Intelsat 33 from the EPIC constellation, which created a number of debris, leading to threats to the operational satellites. Or we can also have impact of space radiation aboard spacecraft. So we clearly need to have a resilient space infrastructure and be able to protect our EU infrastructure, not only the Copernicus and the Galileo, but also the future IRIS². So these are just some examples. Also, in addition, there were some satellites on the right. You can see some graphs of non-European satellites visiting actually Intelsat and Eutelsat visits for reaching the actual geosatellites for less than 70 kilometers and eavesdropping and listening and interfering. So there are clearly more and more issues which are linked to space-based cybersecurity. Next slide, please. But for me, the main threats are actually related to debris. Debris of all sizes, in all orbits, LEO, MEO, and GEO, and type of debris from cooperative and non-cooperative objects, which can actually also can disable spacecraft, could hit antennas, could lead to complete destruction of the satellite and services, but also to human spaceflight on board the space station. Next slide. So the scope of this challenge is to scale up space technologies that could inspect, service, and extend satellite lifetime. As I mentioned earlier, satellites could be, their lifetime could be extended for more than 5 years. Also, by having and developing and scaling up these capabilities, our companies, our new space companies, can offer services to non-EU countries and propose extending their satellites. We can achieve autonomy and competitiveness. We can service not only commercial satellites, but institutional ones too, and could be able to protect EU space infrastructure and generate potential cost savings for satellite owners. So clearly there is, and in parallel, reduce space debris. Why? Because we reduce the number of satellites which are launched by servicing actually already existing infrastructure or by refueling them. In this way, having the possibility to reduce the debris. Next slide. So actually the 3 main objectives, I know they're quite wide, these objectives, but I do believe that we all have a balanced portfolio with balanced projects in these 3 objectives. So the first one is in-orbit satellite servicing and maintenance. It's about proximity operations, about capturing, docking, mating, robotic manipulation, relocation of the satellite, actually performing in a way manned and unmanned, planned and unplanned, maintenance of the satellite. Repair, upgrade, installation, and As you know very well, with the debris hitting the satellite, often we will have a lot of anomalies which will need to be serviced with unplanned maintenance, station keeping, and also we will have in-space assembly and operations being a prerequisite for future in-space assembly and manufacturing activities. And then we would have space transportation, which is about refueling in space. So yes, already we are starting to witness the emergence of a lot of companies, actually not a lot, but a few, creating cooperations to refuel spacecraft in orbit. Like we see OrbitFab refueling Lexi, OrbitFab refueling ClearSpace. So it will be important to have companies having in-orbit refueling interfaces, really expanding and scaling up on this capability, transferring fluid from one spacecraft to another, cryogenic, non-cryogenic propellants, transfer in orbit, and these are capabilities which we will also need for future lunar cislunar surface service activities. So then the third point is about space-based cyber resilience. And here we talk about cyber security for SATCOM, navigation, and Earth observation. But before I go in that point, I also wanted to mention orbital transfer vehicles, where we see an emergence. Europe could be a leader, as we have a few companies emerging in that domain, developing orbital transfer vehicles. So now back to space-based resilience, cybersecurity for SATCOM, Earth observation, and in-orbit servicing missions. So this is a very important aspect, as we know very well that there are radio frequency interferences, there are jamming, intrusions. So there are a lot of dangers which and threats, and a lot of unfriendly activities, but also there will be a lot of areas which will be linked to data safe management, onboard autonomy, onboard safety. There will be, when we talk about iOS missions, of course, there'll be autonomous proximity operations, autonomous docking, in-space robotics. So these activities will need to be protected. There will be also issues linked to cybersecurity of SSA, but also space weather and space weather threats and so on. So we need to protect. There are so many threats which we cannot even imagine emerging, and therefore it is important that we're well prepared, and I expect interesting proposals linked to frequency hopping, beamforming, spread spectrum, and so on, radio frequency, and so on. So these are domains which these capabilities would also, some of them will be very useful for future GovSat, for current GovSatcom activity and future IRIS² too. Next slide, please. What are the expected outcomes and impacts? Well, I really believe that we need to, I would like to see affordable, scalable, and resilient technologies which are able to actually inspect, service, and extend the lifetime of the satellite, and basically upgrade and maintain refuel. Because I do believe that only through in-orbit satellite servicing and extending the lifetime of satellite and refueling the satellite, we will be able to protect not only the space infrastructure, but contribute to reducing the space debris. Of course, it's not the only way, there are many others, but it is at least not creating additional debris. There are many direct benefits which I see which can be generated from these three objectives. First, which are end users can generate direct cost savings from not launching and building a new satellite, but extending the lifetime of a current satellite. They could also increase their mission flexibility and technology innovation, but also they could build interfaces, different interfaces for modular structures too. They could be, other benefits could be enhancing the capabilities, but
sorry,
also
Stella,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. Would you mind to go to the conclusion? So we have
Yes,
questions
of
already
course.
popping up.
Next slide is
Thank
the
you.
last one. Yeah. Next one, please. So this is the space portfolio. And in the space portfolio, we have all the projects which will be selected will be in these three pillars, which you know quite well. Next slide, please. And some of the activities which we do with the companies, some of our projects, actually, next slide, it's better that we go to the next slide, Maria. We have the EIC space beneficiaries. We have a global recognition of our companies. We had 7 launches of our projects from 2023 and 2024. With on the Ariane 6, we had one of our projects. Some of our companies are contributing to the missions Constellar and Eurosat, and also have been recently selected in the Cassini bus, 3 of these companies. And I do believe that we have crème à la crème of the new space community here in our portfolio, so you're very welcome to join it by applying with 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella, for this presentation of the challenge innovative in space servicing operations, robotics, and technologies for resilient EU space infrastructure. Thank you, Guillaume, for your presentation on space strategy in EU. Let's go to the first question. Space debris is a growing issue. Space recycling systems do not only help to solve this, but also support a circular space economy. Will these and other sustainable practices be included in this challenge?
This is a very good question. Well, actually, we just closed the Pathfinder Challenge in Work Programme 2024, which is on space debris mitigation and remediation. However, if you have space recycling was a lower TRL, but however, if you actually have ideas and recommendations on servicing and reusing certain hardware, yes, you can apply, definitely. But if the idea is quite far away from the 3 objectives, I recommend you apply to Accelerator Open. Next question.
Does this challenge also cover activities such as new propulsion methods, software to support operations, and ground support?
The challenge actually covers new methods for new refueling interfaces, yes, new active fluid transfer, new propulsion. It's, let's say, if it is linked in orbit, for in-orbit, particularly for the in-orbit maintenance and servicing, if there is a strong connection, yes, it could be considered in that aspect. So if it's about moving LEO and to GEO transfer, it could be considered. Or if it is for in-orbit servicing or proximity operations or rendezvousing, it might be considered too. Yes, definitely software to support operations, it's considered for in-space operations. Next one.
Thank you, Stella. Would developing a new type of space nanosat used for communication be eligible for this challenge?
It depends from the applications, the payloads on board these nanosats. So if they link to cyber security for SATCOM and so on, if they tackle this issue. But yes, but we don't fund missions. We are not a space agency. We're an executive agency. So we will fund the innovation which is behind the payload, which is for safe and secure satellite communication. But we are not a space agency, and we don't build missions. We fund technology capabilities. Next question.
Would a project aiming at launching an in-orbit demonstration satellite to demonstrate key IOS capabilities fall within the scope of this challenge?
This is a very good question, and it's we cannot fund a full project, but let's say it's very expensive. But of course, if you have innovation which is linked to IOS, in-orbit satellite servicing and maintenance, or you're demonstrating a certain capability, we cannot fund the whole mission. That's what I'm trying to explain. But yes, we can provide funding which demonstrates capabilities which are mentioned as part of these objectives of the accelerator.
Thank you, Stella. Would validation in-house simulating space conditions be considered as TRL6?
We actually do fund some things which are even TRL5. That's why we have the partnership with our colleagues for Flight Fast Access from DG DEFIS from Casini to have the opportunity that companies selected under the EIC could gain a flight ticket. I would suggest that you check the work program. There is a clear definition of the TRL levels. Use the TRL levels from the work program 2025.
Thank you. Let's go to the next one. Yes.
Maybe I would like to add here again.
Yes, please.
It was the same as in the AI topic. So what we are funding are companies that are already at TRL level 5. And in TRL level 5, what it means is that your technology is validated in a relevant environment. So it's validated. TRL 6, your technology is demonstrated. So if you are, you have validated in a relevant environment, but not yet demonstrated all the purposes, it's okay, you can apply. And during the project, together with DG DEFIS, there might also be you might be eligible for an in-orbit demonstration as well.
Thank you to complement Anne-Marie. Next question. Space startups are dual use by nature in general, such as launchers, IR sensors. How is this handled? Are exclusive civilian applications a requirement?
Actually, so here, when you reach your accelerator interview, yes, it is civil, fully requirement. However, in my portfolio, I do have companies which apply for EDF funding or other funding military. Now, developing these capabilities, it is your choice, of course, but developing these capabilities, in the space industry, a lot of things are dual use. And a lot of things could be considered as dual use. However, when you apply for an accelerator challenge, please focus on your civil application, on your civil end users in all cases. So it's exclusively for civil applications. What capabilities after that the company, whether it has contracts with other stakeholders, that is the problem of the company, not ours. Just to make it clear, I have projects which are part of ESA InCube program, ESA Artes program, also EDF. It is the choice of the companies how they develop their innovations and where they provide them. Okay.
Thank you, Stella. We go to the next one. Would new cost-effective solar cells technologies for satellites be potentially suitable for this challenge?
This is a very good question. This was a question from 2023 Work Programme Space Challenge. So actually, if you make the connection to any of the three objectives, it could be, but I doubt it will be. It will be very difficult to make that connection. Therefore, I encourage you that you actually apply for the accelerator open, or you meet some, it will be very, very difficult. If you have a way to connect it to the three main objectives linked, yeah, maybe there are ways, but it wouldn't be only about cost-effective solar technology. So if the proposal is only about cost-effective solar technologies, I don't think it would make it through. But if it's a capability or a technology which is complementary to another technology, then it is possible. That's it.
Thank you so much, Stella.
Thank you.
I want to thank you also, Guillaume. Now I would pass to the last, our fifth and last challenge. Breakthrough innovations for future mobility. We're going to have Jane Emilhart, Head of Unit of Research Innovation DG in Clean Transport Transitions, and also Paolo Bondavalli, PMs at the EIC. Thank you. Jane, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. So yes, this is a new challenge. We didn't have in the past challenge on mobility. So I will try to give you a little bit broader overview of the issues and the things which are important for us in the transport sector. I will start with the first slide. You saw all the three important reports for us, Letta, Draghi, and Heitor, underlying competitiveness. The transport sector is important for competitiveness of the EU industry because they are very big customers of key components like chips, like certain softwares for the automotive sector. It's also a high-tech sector. For instance, if you look at propulsion for aircraft, I mean, the leaders, the countries who are able to manage this are only the EU and US, so it's quite specific technologies with specific challenge. It's also a big job providers in the EU. It's also important for defense because most of the companies work in civilian defense, so it's an important sector for competitiveness and high tech in the EU. Next slide. So I will go through the challenge. So what is important for us in this sector? So what we try to achieve? I mean, of course, the big thing is the greening of the sector, and we've been doing this now for quite some years. And I think here I want to underline it's not only the climate challenge, which counts, the climate change issue. It's also about strategic autonomy. I mean, it's also stop being dependent on fossil fuel, and the transport sector is quite complex to decarbonize because the technologies has been all geared on fossil fuel. So I think here it's a very important challenge. It's also about pollution, air pollution. I mean, and this is a challenge not only for the EU, it's for all the big cities in the world. Now they want also to diminish their pollution. So it's not only here, it's really something, in terms of competitiveness of future markets is very important. Next slide, please. Voilà. So just to show you a little bit concerning this greening challenge, the fact that we still are heavy dependent on fossil fuel in the transport sector. You see black is cars, road transport, blue is maritime, waterborne, and green is aviation. And you see it's growing. Well, maybe not the road, but the road is quite stable. So I think we really need to tackle this, and not only for climate change. As I explained to you, there are other reasons for that, so it's important. Next slide. Voilà, so the competitiveness I was talking about. The sector, is with the highest private investment in R&I, so it's quite important. It's fundamental for the world economy because it's about moving people and goods. And for instance, if you know that 80% of the trade of the EU is made by ship, so shipping is an important sector. As I mentioned, it's also dual use. It's important for defense. You have a lot of critical technologies that are important in the sector, which you wouldn't think about, but they are really essential, like semiconductors. I mentioned already the chips, artificial intelligence, because now the cars are really like software based, and so it's really a step change in this sector. Connectivity, of course, all this automated mobility. We also have navigation and advanced sensing. Sensing is very important in the transport sector, because as you're moving, you need also to have all these technologies. Advanced materials, because for the transport, we also need very specific materials, which are light, robust. So I think it's covering a lot of different key technologies. And that's why we think it's important now to have this challenge. And as I mentioned, for competitiveness, it's 6 million jobs in the EU, so it's quite important. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is, yes. So this is also to make you understand why we think R&I is really important for this sector. And it's not only R&I, but based on R&I, it's about also deployment, industrialization, which is very important. You have here one small icon on sustainable fuel, for instance, what we do on sustainable aviation fuel for e-fuel, so fuels not based on biomaterials, but on really CO2 and green hydrogen. We also have issues on industrialization because you can, so I think it's very important for us also to go into not only prototypes, but also industrialization. And look at all these technologies. Next slide. And I will conclude, because what we do in Horizon Europe, we finance quite a lot of R&I projects in the transport sector, and we work on main instruments is this because industrial is public-private partnership. So we work a lot with the industry. I mean, in all this partnership, all the main industrial players are present, and that's how we also try to move forward with them to increase the competitiveness of the ecosystem in the EU. And as I will just conclude by mentioning, I mean, our main challenges here, of course, is greening, competitiveness, and also digitalization, as I mentioned to you. So it's a quite open and new challenge, and it will be interesting for us to see a little bit, what kind of proposals will come. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Paolo, your turn. Yeah. Thank you.
So actually, so I present myself again. Maybe some attendees were not presented for my first presentation. So actually, I'm Paolo Bondavalli, Program Manager on Advanced Materials for Energy. I'm here to present some details concerning the Accelerator Challenge on breakthrough innovation for future mobility. Next slide, please. But now I would like to talk a little bit about the background. So my colleague already presented the strategy and also the philosophy behind the call. So I'm saying something quite similar. Actually, we know that the European Union has charted a path to climate neutrality by 2050 with an extremely ambitious objective to reduce over at least 55% by 2030 compared to 1990, which is extremely ambitious objective. Next slide, please. But actually, it has been identified that the transport sector, including road transport, aviation, waterborne, and rail. So we are talking about all the I could say infrastructure, all the kind of transport that we can imagine actually, has however been steadily increasing its emission at an average of around 1.7% since 90s actually. The resulting emissions are also one of the main contributors to environmental and health problems. So the emissions are related to this big problem, big societal problem actually. So we need to find a solution, and EIC has developed what we call the Sustainable and Smart Mobility Strategy, which includes an action plan to deliver on a 90% captive mobility emission by 2050. Another very ambitious but also extremely important objective to reach by 2050, and this delivering by a smart, competitive, safe, accessible, and affordable transport system. So we are talking not only about car, ship, and so on, but also about the infrastructure around this the transport actually, and the way to conceive the transport. Next slide, please. To meet this objective, this challenge focuses on supporting companies developing cost-effective and scalable deep tech breakthrough that will help deliver reduction in mobility-related emission in its many facets, from the manufacture of vehicles to their use, which is extremely important. So we are talking about also in this case about all the value chain and this is very important to reach the objective that I have already introduced previously. Next slide, please. So for example, in this case, we are talking about, for the objective, the breakthrough in the design, manufacturing, assembly, and operation of road vehicles, waterborne vessels, aircraft, or rail, contributing significantly to reduce their environmental footprint. So we are talking about a large panel of transport actually, so in a different background, air, and also in water actually, but we have to perform a change not only on the manufacturer but also in the design. So we have to design them in order to improve, to reduce the emission and so the environmental impact and footprint actually. Next slide, please. So we have to develop the objectives to develop disruptive technologies contributing to increase operational efficiencies and reduction in greenhouse gas emission. Secondly, and other harmful emission and noise for heavy duty, road vehicle, waterborne vessel, aircraft or rail. So, and also considering multimodal transport and their related infrastructure. So we are not only talking about strictly the transport, I could say, tools, but also about the infrastructure that will be, we drive this, I could say, this movement, and also they will enable these disruptive technologies to achieve the results in terms of reducing strongly the emission. Next slide, please. And also it's clear that we need to develop sustainable fuels for hard-to-abate sectors, such as aviation, maritime, including retrofitting solutions. So we know this is an important problem also, considering that the sustainable fuel are a very important factor in order to achieve the objective and also to reduce the emission also. Next slide, please. And finally, also the breakthrough in the development and integration of digital tools ranging from sensor to application of AI, enhancing autonomous transport solution and more sustainable energy use on land, water, or in the air, improve the connectivity, efficiency of vehicle and the transport system, including capacity management and smart and bidirectional charging functionalities. For example, the development of system of AI can strongly reduce, for example, the consumption, the energy consumption of the different vehicles also. And also we can imagine to have, for example, a sort of a network of a wireless sensor nodes that will be able to manage the traffic in order to reduce the emission, in order to reduce the impact on the environment. So in this context, the AI can have a strong impact to reach the objective and also in this challenge. Next slide, please. The expected outcome and impact of this challenge are firstly, to increase the competitiveness and economic autonomy of security European company across the mobility value chain. So we are talking about all the value chain. So all the different parts that will contribute to reach the objective. Secondly, to support the scaling up of technology, the material reduce mobility-related emission, including a quantification on how they reduce emission or increase efficiency of transport or provide more affordable and inclusive mobility. Further, to deliver improvement in accessibility, safety, security, connectivity, flexibility, and efficiency of the transport system, including new mobility service and model. This is extremely important considering what is happening in our society about the different model of transport, at the different attitude that we can take actually. And last but not least, to develop new skill and create job in EUA. So this is the submission deadline for 12th of March and 3rd of October. And thank you very much for your attention. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Paolo, for your presentations, and also Jane for this breakthrough innovations for future mobility presentation, and especially on the R&I policies for the transport sectors. So we're going now to move to the questions. So in sectors like shipping, it is advised to include transport companies as consortium member or via LOIs to pilot the proposed solutions.
Indeed, the question is that transport companies, indeed, they are mainly the end user, I think, the transport companies. So we are talking about development of new technologies. So I think to drive the consortium, I'm not sure which is the best configuration actually, considering the call, considering the content of the call, but they could be very important to drive the project actually.
So Paolo,
yeah.
Accelerator is targeted at SMEs. So it are single companies that are applying. So there is no notion of a consortium in general. So it are the single companies applying. But of course, if you have good relationships with relevant companies for applications for your business model that you are developing, that is of course very strong. That would be a very strong part of your proposal.
Yep.
And yes, so
yeah, I think that maybe they can be the end user actually, that can they help the company to move in the right direction. I was this is what I was saying actually.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next question. Do we have to necessarily identify with a single sector, mobility or construction? Our advanced material is for constructing greener roads.
So this is in which challenge? The first one or the other one on advanced material or on mobility?
This is a question for the first challenge on advanced materials.
I think so actually. So yeah. I don't know. I have to answer concerning the first.
You can answer if that person is still here.
I think that is a completely it could be in line with the first challenge. After that, with the first challenge, in my opinion, because we are talking about advanced material. If you are developing advanced material in the framework of a project, we are in line with the call actually. But we have to develop advanced material with improve functional performances actually, as is written exactly in the call actually.
Indeed. And here in this case, it doesn't matter if it applies to the two sectors. It's only good. Yes.
Next one. Could electrification solutions fit in this challenge if the innovation is in the engineering and factor form design, which makes electrification cost efficient?
Indeed, it is related strictly to the transport because we are talking about mobility and transport, and here we are talking about electrification. So I'm not sure that is completely pertinent concerning this.
Yeah, the work program has a sentence about that. So it writes, it is written, energy factors based on electrification and hydrogen fall outside the scope of this challenge, but can be supported through the open calls. However, digital tools for charging and capacity management are in scope. So
in scope, exactly.
To me, it sounds that this then electrification, as meant in this question, would be out of the scope of this challenge.
Thank you, Maria and Paolo. Next one. Is an applied semiconductor charging solution a good fit for this challenge?
We are not talking exactly about transport in this case. It maybe it is more related to advanced material because we are developing new material, exploit in this case semiconductor to have a new charging solution. So in my case, it's more oriented on advanced material because it's not strictly related to transport.
Yes, but if it would be related to transport and it will be a digital tool for charging and capacity management, then it would be okay.
Because is it more reading exactly the question? My opinion is more related to hardware. Yes. I think so. It was for that, but it's clear that about the digital tool, as is written in the call, is completely correct. Actually.
Thank you. Are airships included in aircrafts, and are they part of the scope?
Yeah, it is written. Aircraft are included. It is written. So all the transport, so from water, by land, air. So it's okay.
Shipping is international. Should decarbonization solutions focus on intra-EU transport, for instance, between European ports, or can they cover global shipping?
This is a good question. I think that Jane can answer to this question. In my case, indeed, if we are focused on, if this is an European call, but it's clear that the impact on the European call can also be global. So if the shipping is not between the different EU, I could say EU state, but also is global. So is automatically when we are talking about transport, we are talking about a global thing. So in my opinion, can cover global shipping if you are talking about Europe at the center of that. Actually.
Indeed, it can cover global shipping. It's not specified in the call that it can only be intra-EU transport. So it is global.
Next one, does AI-based technology to boost the adoption of autonomous driving fit with this challenge?
I think it's coherent because we are talking about, as is written in the call, we are talking about new also AI supported system or infrastructure that will help to optimize. For example, I was talking about the traffic jam, but also the car consumption or the different transport consumption. So I think if we are talking about that, also about autonomous driving, actually, I think it can be coherent.
Indeed, it fits. It's written in the call text that the application of artificial intelligence to enhance autonomous transport solutions and more sustainable energy use on land, water, and on the air. So that is one of the things we're looking for in this challenge. Yes.
Thank you, Maria and Paolo. Is the development of electric outboards for boats and ships out of scope for this challenge?
What is exactly the meaning of board for them, actually? What they development electric outboard in this case for boats? What they mean actually?
Well, I think this is out of scope because so I think it will be out of scope because what we say is that energy factors based on electrification and hydrogen fall outside the scope of this challenge. Only digital tools for charging and capacity management are in scope. So if electric outboards are dead, but I don't think so. To me, it sounds like the outboard motor, but I'm not also 100% sure. But please read that sentence in the work program. But I'm afraid it will be out of scope.
Thank you. Next one. Are off-road and mobile working machines, such as heavy-duty mobile machines in forestry, agriculture, mines, constructions, suitable for this challenge?
The question is that if I read the call, the call is more oriented on transport. And so I'm not sure that it fits with this challenge, considering we are talking about transport, we are talking about shipping, we are talking about cars and so on, actually. So here we are talking about other function, actually, of a different machine, actually.
Thank you, Paolo. The last one. With respect to aerospace, is there a preference for hydrogen or battery electrification?
I was saying, Anne-Marie, if this out of scope, and so out of scope.
Indeed, there's no, so electrification and hydrogen solutions fall outside of the scope of this challenge. Yeah.
So if this is the last questions, we can close this last session on breakthrough innovations for fusion mobility. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Paolo, for your presentations. So I would like to just remind you, all participants, that they will find their questions that are answered, not answered, and partially addressed in our EIC Accelerator Challenges frequently asked questions section. So no worries, you will find your answers there completely. You're going to find the answer to your question complete. Now I would move to the closing remarks for Anne-Marie and also the launch to of the satisfaction survey of this Info Day.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria. So my closing remarks will be quite short. First of all, I want to thank all my colleagues who organized the Info Day. Everything went very smooth. I also want to thank all my colleagues of the different Directorate-Generals who provided the context to the challenges that we have presented to you today. I think it's very important to keep in mind this policy context. That is what we want to achieve overall, and that is why we developed the challenge as it was. All the presentations will be online, so you can re-watch it if you want to apply. And I would also highly advise you to watch the general Info Day information about the accelerator to make sure that you have all the necessary details to make successful applications. And then, of course, the frequently asked questions, where we will also add all the questions that you asked today. If you need further support in developing your proposal, you can also ask your national contact point. They are very happy to support you, and they are then also the ones who are in contact with us if there are questions to which they would not know the answer. Then my final remark would be, if your proposal fits a challenge, please submit to the challenge. You will have higher chances of success. And for us, it's also nice to have a group of projects in the challenge. So for organizational purposes, it's also easier for us, but it's also, something afterwards we can communicate on the projects that have been selected in the challenge, and we can provide you a proactive support to help you bring your innovations to the market. So thank you all for listening to all the presentations. And please answer our satisfaction survey. You see it here online. So is the satisfaction survey is also then at the same Slido as we used all the time for asking your questions. So please answer our satisfaction survey. We can use that to improve our info day for the next year. But for now, I want to thank you very much for all your attention and wish you good luck in submitting your applications. And yeah, we hope to receive many applications in the challenges. Thanks a lot.